We are ready to go live. Setting up the stream now. We've got the setting up sign at the top because the stream isn't set up at the top of the stream. Lay your head down and dream is a song we don't play here today, 'cause it is, and we're gonna grind. We're gonna read Moby Dick and do some grindy Minecraft stuff that will end up probably in a time lapse in my upcoming video. Let's go ahead and make sure that we've got everything all ready to go. I'm trying to be more methodical about things, but I'm not going to double post on Tumblr and Blue Sky today for this traditional Saturday night stream. For the bonus streams, when we're doing random streams at random times, I feel like it's extra helpful to let people know, hey, what's going on, you know? But for these like Saturday night streams, most people, they're either busy or they're here. You know, we don't need to remind them that Saturday we read Moby Dick. Like, they either don't know or they don't care, and that's okay. No, wait, if they don't know. I'm too tired to sort out what that sentence meant. So, here we go. Let's go ahead and set up the stream, setting the message delay and live reactions there. We're going to go ahead and set up the game in YouTube as well. YouTube is so fun for setting up and closing streams. Oh, yeah. I love doing everything on the fly all the time. Okay. Welcome, Taco Squirrel, to you. Barry Banna, Duck No Sauce, who says, hello, stream. Hello, Pepper Basenji. Welcome, Gusty Gale. Welcome, Iconic Anemone. It is time to pull up what we're reading. Now, I think we're on chapter 73. Let's find out. Also, one thing that I'm trying something new. I'm trying something new right now. I did a streamer's log, or a slog, about the bonus stream today. Streamer's log. The idea is that I would take a few screenshots and post about what I accomplished on each stream. And ideally, these will be short enough that they won't take up an entire stream each time. Realistically, because this was a 4-hour stream, and it was my first time writing one of these, it took way longer to write than I expected. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I like the idea that for people who are kind of hitting a busy point in their lives and they don't have the chance to watch every stream or catch every video, like, people keep asking in the chats on, like, Reddit and stuff. People keep posting, like, hey, I'm really behind on HermitCraft, but I don't have time to watch videos. Is there a way I could catch up? And the answer is 100% every time. We'll just watch the recap. It's like, oh, I just said I don't have time to watch videos. Watching the recap isn't a silver bullet answer to that, right? So I realized if I started just kind of writing down what I'm doing, sometimes there's people who are in situations where, like, they could sit and read something, but they couldn't necessarily watch a video, like, because of the structure of their commute or whatever. So, you know, I'm thinking having something available so people who want to get with it can get with it without having to necessarily depend on having headphones on. I feel like that's, or being able to look at a screen, because, like, I don't know if anybody wants to time themselves reading that blog post and say, like, that blog post took me 3 minutes to read. Not, like, trying to speed read it, but just, like, if you just read that blog post and let me know in the chat how long it takes you to read. I am kind of curious. I bet it's shorter than watching a video, would be my guess. Even a recap video that's 7 minutes, I think you could read the blog post in less than 7 minutes. Pepper Basenji goes, thank you, Joe. I have missed a few streams. Yeah. Alpacatastic says, I haven't been able to watch many streams in general lately, so the log will be very valuable to me going forward. Awesome. This is also going to kind of help me get organized with keeping track of what happens Sorry, foot pedal there. It helps me kind of keep track of what happens on what days, because a lot of times we'll have stuff happening on the server, and then I'll go try to find the replay mod file for that event, and I'll be like, wait, what day did we do that? You know, what day was that? And like, if I recorded it, then that's fine, but sometimes stuff happens where I didn't hit record, because I'm like, oh, I'm not going to use this in an episode, and then I'm like, oh, I actually need a replay mod so I can do voiceover stuff for this, or reference this for some reason. Lizzie Max says, it takes forever to read, so detailed. What about dot points? But I love it, and the images. Yeah, I was thinking of having a bulleted list of, like, you know, the TLDR at the top of, like, with, and then, but I feel like having it, for it to feel like a journal, I feel like I have to kind of write it out, right? I'm also, part of the point of this is for me to practice writing more again, just get in the habit of writing, because I got out of that habit, and I am realizing I depended on Twitter for most of my writing time, and now that Twitter is self-immolated, or been immolated by Elon Musk, I'm realizing that I would like to do more writing. And I should start doing that on my own website, which is, of course, a WordPress install, and nothing bad ever happens to WordPress. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But okay. So we've got these cooking up coal. But yeah. Centauratron says, we're just popping over to grab something, can quickly turn into a whole event that would be great in an episode. Especially if it ends up being important from a plot standpoint later. Like, sometimes I'll go over to somebody's place, and they'll, like, on a stream, and they'll just be talking, and then it ends up like, oh, this actually, like, ended up being... Like, there was a bunch of stuff I didn't record leading up to the trial, because I didn't realize it was going to be important. And then it was important. Okay. So... yeah, so where was I? We are going to be reading Moby Dick tonight. We just finished chapter 72, so we need to pull up chapter 73. So let me get the what we're reading link here and update that in both chats. You might notice that the camera is already a little bit larger than usual. That is because I did a 4-hour bonus stream earlier today, and we are now $15 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. This is a viewer-supported stream, and believe me, there have been a lot of expenses since getting married. Health insurance went up by $500 a month. We had kind of 2 high-expense dental visits. Like, I feel bad posting about that on Twitter right after the last one, but it's like, we got a lot going on. Yeah, so if y'all have a few extra bucks, even just, you know, $2 to $5 is like way more than I would make if you watched every HermitCraft video I've ever made. I've made like 1,000 HermitCraft videos. You could watch all of them, and I wouldn't even make $1 in ad revenue. So, Chris and Chili says, took me 3 minutes to read while also listening to you. Probably 1 to 2 minutes if I didn't listen. Really like it. I've been thinking for a while it'd be nice if somebody wrote and shared pictures of what they did in Minecraft. Love it, Joe. Well, so the first Let's Plays that I ever read, like, I've been reading Let's Plays since before YouTube existed. Like, okay, here's something we're gonna do. This torch here is the midpoint of the build, but it's also in an awkward place. So we are going to move that there for the purposes of this exercise. Yeah. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to be... Lost Cult Music, tip in 3. Thank you so much, Lost Cult Music. That puts us now 12 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Cheers. Farad each says it took me 5 minutes to read that. Okay. So that's still shorter than a 7-minute recap video. And I think it's more helpful for me creatively to make a it's more helpful for me creatively to get in the habit of making writing artifacts from streams than doing additional video editing, because I've got enough editing on my plate as it is. And next episode, once I get done with the Frogger portion, should be out soon, so I'm looking forward to that. But okay, here's what I'm thinking is we're gonna put, okay, yeah. So for this next segment, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create all of these. I should build these pillars back here, maybe. Where should I put these pillars? Hey, Mr. Hardluck, I hope you enjoyed the belated birthday dinner. Lizzie Max says, I'm so excited we're working on this. Yeah. I got the whole lobby. Made a lot of progress. I talked to Impulse. He gave me permission to go get quartz from his shop. We'll do that after we read some Moby Dick and get this first part done with the coal, though. Okay. So, chapter 73 of Moby Dick is Stub and Flask kill a right whale, then have a talk over him. But hey, first we got a tip rolling in. Let's see who it is from. It's from Iconic Anemone, who says, Iconic Anemone, here to send you a couple bucks. Thank you so much, Iconic Anemone. That puts us now 10 away from the next Face Gamer expansion milestone. I really appreciate it. This is a very helpful time, believe me. It is. Money has been tight the last couple of months, and every little bit helps. Seriously. Thank you, Iconic Anemone. So here is what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I am going... Okay, I'm going to need to create a scaffold. I'm trying to set up I'm trying to set up a fancy shot here in Replay Mod. And we're going to need 64 scaffolds for it. We're going to put these away for right now. We're going to need to move the droppers back here, I think. Or do these 1 block further back? 2 blocks further back, maybe? Well, you know what? Actually, I think I know the answer to this. We're gonna go get some grass blocks here, and we're gonna do something kind of creative here. And we're just gonna kind of go boop, build a nice little thing here. Okay. So. We are probably going to want an additional bed on this side as well. I don't think I brought my wool chest with me. Okay, well, we don't need that right now, so let's put that down. We can make a bed with that over there. Lizzie Max says, I've been waiting my whole life for this. Are you just really into laser tag places? I'm glad you're excited, but I'm curious why this particular project is resonating with you so much. Yeah, I hope you feel better by Monday too, Jen. Never feel guilty about not being super active in the chat. Yeah. Everybody's welcome to participate at whatever speed makes sense for them at the time. Like, if there's somebody who's normally super active here, and I see that they're here, but they're not saying much, I don't go, I wonder what's wrong with them. That's weird. I'm just like, oh, they're probably cooking dinner or doing a craft or something. You know, like not everybody engages with the stream at the same level all the time. So that's never a problem. Do whatever makes you happiest. This is something that I'm making for y'all to enjoy. Okay. So here we go. We are going to put a marker in for replay mod purposes. We have not changed dimensions. And we are going to set up the scaffold. Here. I'm realizing I have already screwed this up. We're going to go back real quick, and I need to grab a few of these shulkers. Let's... Okay. So we need 64 of these. Okay, so we got 64 of these. We're going to put the shulkers on the ground here. I'm going to move all of this. These shulkers are going to go in here. Make sure that there's no... Okay, cool. So, we're going to put the bed and the shulkers here. Oh, we're out of range of the beacon, though. That was why we did it that way originally. Okay, new plan. We're going to run to Hypnose and get a bunch of iron real quick. Because I have a very particular shot in mind for the episode that I want to record doing this grindy cold destruction thing in a very particular way, but ideally I need to do it all in one take for the replay mod time-lapse to look good, and everything has to be set up. Raystar says, "Hi Joe, hi chat, nailed it, crafting hands here. Welcome. Hey Zesty Lime, hope you're doing well." Boy, I hope Hypno gets back to run this farm soon, because we kind of need it. My cats. Meow. So the bunker entrance is going to be there. If we don't come in too fast, we need to avoid crashing here. Okay. Okay, so beacon. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to here. What is this? 368. 368 is the midline. We're going to go to the back. Sorry, I know we're not reading a lot of Moby Dick tonight, but like I know exactly what I want to do while I read, and we are just not quite set up to do it yet. Okay, so 368, and we need to go 9 blocks past the back of here for this to work. And ideally we should go down. Is there anything dug out here already, like a cave we could use? No. This is all completely undug. Okay, so the further we go down, the better. How tall is the Badlands map? What is the name of the software that they use for BSP editing for Team Fortress 2 maps? Is it Anvil? Or was it Hammer? Is that cereal? You know, you're asking a lot of questions about my this is probably moonshine jar that are probably answered by the text on my this is probably moonshine jar. But yeah, moonshine infused cherries as a Saturday night treat. We picked those up in Gatlinburg during our honeymoon, and that's the end of the jar. They didn't come in the jar that says this is probably moonshine. They came in a jar that says this is clearly moonshine. But yeah. Okay, boy. I'm realizing from a storage standpoint, we're going to come back here real quick, and we're going to put a bunch of this into here for right now. Okay. So we want to go to 368, and we're going to mine straight down. We're going to create a hole that's 5 blocks past the end of this, right? So that's what? Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we're not at 368. 368, yeah. Cool. So this is the center point here. Now, what I think I need to do is I think I need to pull up Hammer TF2 map editor. Where do you download that? Valve Hammer editor. Is that, I'm assuming that's available via Steam? If I go to the Steam store and I search for Hammer editor, it would be in there, right? Hammer editor. Valve Hammer editor on Valve Developer Community. Team Fortress 2 level creation in Valve Developer Community. Okay, Hammer is included in the Source SDK. So we want to download the Source SDK. Where do you download the Source SDK? Documentation. Developer.valvesoftware.com. It's available to all Steam users. Okay. Note, check if the tools are downloaded on a Mac or if they just don't work. Okay. So, for most users, we recommend using Source SDK 2013. Read the Source SDK release notes. Latest episode. Source SDK release note archive. Last update was 2014. I feel like I'm looking in the wrong place for this. Okay, Valve Source SDK. No, 2013. Source SDK 2013 is the latest edition, apparently. Okay, it's available on GitHub. It feels like I would want a newer version than the 2013 version, but maybe I don't. Maybe this is fine. Okay. So, downloading the source code and launcher. Okay. So, see source SDK 2013. Uses the Valve project creator. Oh my gosh. All I want is the Hammer editor, but install this from your Steam library. You can use the search function or enable tools in the filters or from... So we want Source SDK based multiplayer. Open that in Steam. Okay, and then we want to install that. That's 3 gigabytes. Starting download. Okay. Uh-oh, it's getting dark out. Hopefully we're far enough down that no mobs are going to jump on us. So I was trying to figure out what Y level do we need to be at to get to the bottom of all this, gestures broadly here. But, you know, maybe... Are we low enough that... Yeah, there's no, like, clear cave or anything. Hey, Source SDK. Okay. So, where did that go? Filters. That's not helpful. So I've downloaded it, but we might just have to come back to this. This is a little bit... Okay, open in Steam. Okay, it's doing something. Ah, Valve noises. Okay. So... Okay. I don't think that's the one that I was on. Okay, well... How do I open Hammer? Yeah, okay. If we want to know how tall this map is, we're gonna have to do something different. We're just gonna go until we hit deep slate, I guess. I don't know. Because I don't know how deep this needs to go. There was a thing. There was a tunnel down there. Okay. Did you see that, you guys? There was a tunnel there. Okay, now we're getting attacked by a million mobs. Welcome, Silkwing Butterfly. Yeah, we can't do the songs at the beginning of the Moby Dick stream because it'll kill the VOD. And this is the one stream a week that we actually have the VOD. Okay. So... now that we have that properly set up, we're going to bring this with us. What you munching on? Moonshine cherries. A delicious treat. We're going to take an ender pearl down. We should probably... probably take some extra torches. I was going to say we are running low on a lot of material, so let's also grab additional fireworks and food. Oh gosh, we are really running out of stuff. Okay, that's gotta have been Scar. Oh my gosh. Howdy, Scar. Okay, bye. Yeah, Cord's hide really helped. Where, did he just log in over here? What was going, how did that happen? It's fine. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We are gonna ender pearl down there. We are going to light it up, and then we're gonna fly back out after building our beacon. I know some of y'all were really looking forward to reading Moby Dick tonight. We are going to get to it, don't worry. It's just a matter of getting everything together here. See, I wanted to come back during the day because the daylight would immediately deter spawning directly around the area. Okay, so somebody has been down here before. Which isn't surprising because this is so close to spawn. But yeah, we got some lava helping deter spawning. I don't think our build will go this low, but I do need to sort that out at some point. Whoa, this hole. Whoa. You could fly out over there. Do you guys see that? Hold on. I don't want to go all the way out there right now. Do we get the face camera back? Yeah, you know what? Since the scar is gone. Yeah, I was jump scarred. Okay. So this one torch here is directly underneath that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. I'm feeling like that's not centered. It's not. I mean, we actually probably do want to make this a double wide one. Anyway, we're going to need a few beacons for inside the game. So actually having this huge isn't the end of the world. Now that I'm thinking about it, fine. We're going to keep the extra large base. We did bring extra iron, so I think it'll be okay. So this is going to go out 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going 7 across here. Remind me to get a screenshot of this double wide beacon before we fly out of here for the blog post. because that's the other thing is I just want to create like an album of HermitCraft images from throughout the season too. I feel like that's a valuable thing to have like a visual timeline of the season. Okay, so we're only going to actually use one of them right now. And then place it in the wrong spot. Haste 2. Welcome back, Scar. Okay. Yay! Woo! I'm getting better at posing. Okay, so now we're gonna fly up and out via that corridor we found. So where does this lead? Hey, that's pretty convenient. Okay, so we are going to also real quick, we're gonna build the second wide column on that. So we can put in the second beacon whenever we're ready for it. But knowing there's a nice, easy way to fly back out is actually super convenient. Yeah, I see you zombie. The fact that there's a zombie there means that stuff can spawn here, which isn't great for beacon operation day to day. Okay. And that's going to be generally discouraging. Uh-oh, did I look directly at the Enderman? Hopefully not. I'm in water, he can't get me, haha! Okay. Okay. So, I think we are now set up to record that Moby Dick thing. We'll come back to the World Hammer Editor thing later. For right now, the most important thing we need to do is we need to fill our inventory with scaffolds and iron, not iron, no. Coal ore, yeah. So let's go drop off the... I'm going to switch to local fireworks, flight duration 1 for right now, since this is a smaller area. We shouldn't need that many of the longer duration ones. Extra tools can go in here for right now. We don't need that. Okay. So we're going to let the sun set, and we'll change night into day. Then we'll start our recording. Okay, just as a reminder, if this is a viewer-supported stream, according to my abacus here, we are only $10 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. We've been streaming about 40 minutes now, and if you feel like this is a good use of your Saturday evening, it's a lot cheaper than going out, feel free to send some cash my way. It would be deeply appreciated. It's Sunday in Australia, Lizzie Mac. Doesn't mean it's Sunday here. Okay. So, taking that out. Okay. So, I got that screenshot of the beacon. Now, we're going to get this set up. Here. Did I remember to set the marker? Maybe. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay. So we are going to read our chapter of Moby Dick, which should be in there. Okay, we got a tip rolling in from Lizzie Mack, who says, Shaw Pipe, pew pew, woohoo! Thank you very much, Lizzie Mack. That 31 is going to get us, that's 2 face camera expansion milestones, and then 19 away from the next one. So here's our first one. Here we go. It's time to expand Jost. Do-do-do-do. Lowering the opacity now to 80%. And numero dos. Even larger Jost. La-da-da-da. And we're going to lower the opacity. Now, the problem is we lose the candelabra. But yeah, at this point. I can't really put that any further back the way it's set up. We'll have to play with the candelabra, but we're going to lower the opacity now to 70%. So thank you very much, Lizzie Mack, for that. We are now 19 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Lizzie Mack says, I don't want the face to cover the shop, though. Don't worry, 70% is the half face expansion. Welcome, Ken Dreadful. Okay, so here we go. Moby Dick, Chapter 73, Stubb and Flask kill a right whale, and then have a talk over him. It must be borne in mind that all this time we have a sperm whale's prodigious head hanging to the Pequod's side. But we must let it continue hanging there a little while, till we can get a chance to attend to it. For the present, other matters press, and the best we can do now, for the head, is to pray heaven the tackles may hold. Now, during the past night and forenoon, the Pequod had gradually drifted into a sea, which, by its occasional patches of yellow brit... That was not part of the replay mod plan. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to go get some ender pearls because yeah, this I'm realizing this plan is not a... How many ender pearls do we have in the golf bag at this point? Did we use all of them? No, we got plenty. Okay. We're taking the golf bag back with us then. Whew. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. So, golf bag is going here. And we are going to grab 14 of those. We're going to put those there. Now we're going to keep going. No, golf bag can't go there, actually. It needs to go in a place that wouldn't be visible. Okay. Now, during the past night and forenoon, the Pequod had gradually drifted into a sea, which, by its occasional patches of yellow brit, gave unusual tokens of the vicinity of right whales, a species of the Leviathan that but few supposed to be, at that particular time, lurking anywhere near. And though all hands commonly disdained the capture of those inferior creatures, and though the Pequod was not commissioned to cruise for them at all, and though she had passed numbers of them near the Crozets without lowering a boat, yet now that a sperm whale had been brought alongside and beheaded, to the surprise of all, the announcement was made that a right whale should be captured that day, if the opportunity offered. Nor was this long wanting. Tall spouts were seen to leeward, and 2 boats, Stubbs and Flasks, were detached in pursuit. Pulling further and further away, they at last became almost invisible to the men at the masthead. But, suddenly in the distance, they saw a great heap of tumultuous white water, and soon after, news came from aloft that one or both the boats must be fast. An interval passed, and the boats were in plain sight, in the act of being dragged right toward the ship by the towing whale. So close did the monster come to the hull that at first it seemed as if he plainly meant it malice. But suddenly going down in a maelstrom within 3 rods of the planks, he wholly disappeared from view. As if diving under the keel. "Cut! Cut!" was the cry from the ship to the boats, which for one instant seemed on the point of being brought with a deadly dash against the vessel's side. But, having plenty of line yet in the tubs, and the whale not sounding very rapidly, they paid out abundance of rope, and at the same time pulled with all their might, so as to get ahead of the ship. For a few minutes, the struggle was intensely critical. For while they still slacked out, tightened line in one direction, and still plied their oars in another, the contending strain threatened to take them under. But it was only a few feet advance they sought to gain, and they stuck to it till they did gain it, when instantly a swift tremor was felt running like lightning along the keel, as the strained line, scraping beneath the ship, suddenly rose to view under her bows, snapping and quivering, and so flinging off its drippings that the drops fell like bits of broken glass on the water. While the whale beyond also rose to sight, and once more the boats were free to fly. But the whale abated his speed, and blindly altering his course, went round the stern of the ship, towing the 2 boats after him, so that they performed a complete circuit. Meantime, they hauled more and more upon their lines, till close flanking him on both sides, Stubb answered Flask with lance for lance, and thus round and round the battle went. While the multitudes of sharks that had been swum round the sperm whale's body rushed to the fresh blood that was spilled, thirstily drinking at every new gash, as the eager Israelites did at the new bursting fountains that poured from the smitten rock. So unfortunately, because of the way I'm recording this time-lapse, I can't scroll down in the middle of a column here. I have to jump down. Okay, so we're going to wait for the sun to set before I do this next row. But yeah, so the core concept is I'm going to try and split the screen into vertical slices, and have it look like I'm digging or building all of these simultaneously, it's gonna be a mess. I think it's gonna be cool, but yeah. Lizzie Max says, "How can you read and place blocks at the same time? That's crazy." It's a lot harder to do this than it is to mine out the whole thing of It's a lot harder to do this than to mine out the Hermit Holmdel, I'll tell you that. I am definitely struggling more with this challenge, but it's good to push myself. Yeah, but it does mean we're going to have more interruptions in the middle of the chapters. So, once again, if I hit a logical breaking point in the chapter or a point where I'm having taking a second to talk anyway, I might thank people for tips. We are currently 19 away from our next face camera expansion milestone. This is a viewer-supported stream. Anybody who tips, it is deeply appreciated. Also, yeah, I'm realizing giving myself a snack that I have to chew on a reading stream with a VOD was a dumb idea. I, never do that, but I'm like, it's Saturday night. It's a treat. What am I thinking? Anyway, that's the last of the cherry. Don't worry, that's mostly melted ice, not straight moonshine. But okay. Let's come back here. I did pack myself a soda as well. And we're going to continue upward here. And did I actually scroll the... No. I mentioned that I need to take a break from reading, or from doing the block placing to scroll the thing. And then I didn't actually scroll the thing. I just finished my moonshine. Badger can read to us perchance. I can hear Badger and my daughter hanging out in the other room. They are being quiet, but I can still tell. But no, they're having a good time. I'm not going to go interrupt them. Okay, so let's go ahead and scroll down here. At last his spout grew thick, and with a frightful roll and vomit, he turned upon his back, a corpse. While the two headsmen were engaging in making fast cords to his flukes and in other ways getting the mass in readiness for towing, some conversations ensued between them. I wonder what the old man wants with the foul lord, said Stubb, not without some disgust at the thought of having to do with so ignoble a leviathan. Once with it, said Flask, coiling some spare line in the boat's bow. Did you never hear that the ship which but once has a sperm whale's head hoisted on the starboard side, and at the same time a right whale's on the larboard? Did you never hear, Stubb, that ship can never afterwards capsize? Why not? I don't know, but I heard the gamboge ghost of a Fadala saying so, and he seems to know all about ship's charms. But I sometimes think he'll charm the ship to no good at last. I don't half like that chap, Stubb. Did you ever notice how the tusk of his is sort of carved into a snake's head, Stubb? Sink him. I never look at him at all. But if I ever get a chance of a dark night and he's standing hard by the bulwarks and no one by, look down there, Flask, pointing into the sea with a peculiar motion of both hands. I, Flask. I take that Fadala to be the devil in disguise. Do you believe that cock and bull story about his having stowed away on board ship? He's the devil, I say. The reason why you don't see his tail is because he tucks it up out of sight. He carries it coiled away in his pocket, I guess. Blast him. Now that I think of it, he's always wanting oakum to stuff into the toes of his boots. He sleeps in his boots, don't he? He hasn't got any hammock. But I've seen him lay, I've seen him lay out nights in a coil of rigging. No doubt, and it's because of his cursed tail. He coils it down, you see, into the eye of the rigging. What's the old man have so much to do with him for? Striking up a swap or a bargain, I guess. A bargain? About what? Why, do you see, the old man is hard bent after the white whale, and the devil there is trying to come round him and get him to swap away his silver watch or his soul. Or something of that sort. And then he'll surrender Moby Dick. Boo! Stub, you are skylarking. How can Fedallah do that? I don't know, Flask, but the devil is a curious chap and a wicked one, I tell ye. Why, they say is how he went a-sauntering into the old flagship once, switching his tail devilish easy and gentlemanlike, and inquiring if the old governor was at home. Well, he was at home, and asked the devil what he wanted. The devil, switching his hoofs up, says, I want John. What for? Says the old governor. What business is that of yours? Says the devil, getting mad. I want to use him. Take him, says the governor. And by the Lord, Flask, if the devil didn't give John the Asiatic cholera before he got through with him, I'll eat this whole whale in one mouthful. But look sharp. Ain't you already there? Well then, pull ahead, and let's get the whale alongside. I think I remember some such story as you were telling, said Flask, when at last the two boats were slowly advancing with their burden towards the ship. And then I need to scroll. Ken Dreadful says, can someone explain what we're doing right now? Yeah, we're recording a very fancy time-lapse. This is going to look great once I replay mod it. I have a very particular thing that I'm going to do with this in replay mod. And it's not great yet, but it's going to be great. Okay. So, let me scroll down here. So, Flask was saying he remembered some such story. But I can't remember where. 3 Spaniards, maybe. Adventures of those bloody-minded soldados. Did you read it there, Flask? I guess you did. No, never saw such a book. Heard of it, though. But now tell me, Stub, do you suppose that devil you was speaking of just now is the same you say is now on board the Pequod? Am I the same man that helped kill this whale? Doesn't the devil live forever? Who ever heard that the devil was dead? Did you ever see any parson a-wearing mourning for the devil? And if the devil has a latchkey to get into the admiral's cabin, don't you suppose he can crawl into a porthole? Tell me that, Mr. Flask. old do you suppose that Fadala is, Stub? Do you see that mainmast there? Pointing to the ship. Well, that's the figure 1. Now, take all the hoops in the Pequod's hold and string along in a row with the mast for oughts. Do you see? Well, that wouldn't begin to be Fadala's age. Nor all the coopers in creation couldn't show hoops to make oughts enough. But, see here, Stub, I thought you boasted a little just now that you meant to give Fadala a sea toss if you gave him a good chance, if you got a good chance. Now, if he's so old as all those hoops of yours come to, and if he's going to live forever, what good will it do to pitch him overboard? Tell me that. Give him a good ducking, anyhow. But he'd crawl back. Duck him again, and keep ducking him. Suppose he should take it into his head to duck you, though. Yeah, and drown you. What then? I should like to see him try it. I'd give him such a pair of black eyes that he wouldn't dare show his face in the Admiral's cabin again for a long while. Let alone down in the orlop there where he lives, or hereabouts on the upper decks where he sneaks so much. Damn the devil, Flask! Do you suppose I'm afraid of the devil? Who's afraid of him? Except the old governor, who doesn't catch him and put him in the double darbies as he deserves, but lets him go about kidnapping people, and signed a bond with him and all the people the devil kidnapped he'd roast for him. There's a governor. Do you suppose Fadala wants to kidnap Captain Ahab? Do I suppose it? You'll know it before long, Flask. But I'm going now to keep a sharp lookout upon him, and if I see anything very suspicious going on, I'll just take him by the nape of his neck and say, "Look here, Beelzebub, you don't do it!" And if he makes any fuss, by the Lord, I'll make a grab into his pocket for his tail, take it to the capstan, and give him such a wrenching and a heaving that his tail will come short off at the stump, you see. And then, I rather guess, when he finds himself docked in that fashion, he'll sneak off without the poor satisfaction of feeling the tail between his legs. And what'll you do with the tail, Stub? Do with it? Sell it for an ox whip when we get home. What else? Now, do you mean what you say, and have been saying all along, Stub? Mean or not mean, here we are at the ship. The boats were here hailed to tow the whale on the larboard side, where fluke chains and other necessaries were already prepared for securing him. Didn't I tell you so? Said Flask. Yes, you'll soon see this right whale's head hoisted up opposite the Parmacetes. In good time, Flask's saying proved true. As before, the Pequod steeply leaned over toward the sperm whale's head. Now, by the counterpoise of both heads, she regained her even keel, though sorely strained, you may well believe. So when on one side you hoist in Locke's head, you go over that way. But now, on the other side, hoist in Cont's, and you come back again, but in very poor plight. Thus, some minds forever keep trim in boat. Oh, ye foolish, throw all these thunderheads overboard, and then you will float light and right. In disposing of a body of a right whale, when brought alongside the ship, The same preliminary proceedings commonly take place as in the case of a sperm whale. Only, in the latter instance, the head is cut off the whale, but in the former, the lips and tongue are separately removed and hoisted on deck, with all the well-known black bone attached to what is called the crown piece. But nothing like this, in the present case, had been done. The carcasses of both whales had dropped astern, and the head-laden ship not a little resembled a mule carrying a pair of overburdening panniers. Meantime, Fadalla was calmly eyeing the right whale's head, and ever and anon glancing from the deep wrinkles there to the lines in his own hand. And Ahab chanced so to stand that the Parsee occupied his shadow, while, if the Parsee's shadow were there at all, it seemed only to blend with and lengthen Ahab's. As the crew toiled on, Laplandish speculations were bandied among them concerning all these passing things. And that concludes Chapter 73 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. Just as a reminder, this is a viewer-supported stream. We are 19 away from the next Face Camera expansion milestone, and tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. 3RTM says, why was I put into timeout? Probably for being wildly off topic in the middle of a reading segment. It's hard for me to moderate and read out loud and record Minecraft. And you showing up with random celebrity facts is not constructive. I don't really know who that guy is or have any interest in celebrity gossip. It's like showing up and saying, did you know that a celebrity has an age, is bizarre and antisocial. Like, everybody's, like, we're focused on the story. Like, if that tied into the story somehow, like, if that guy played Flask in a television adaptation of Moby Dick, then, like, yeah, let's talk about it. Like, can you believe that the guy who played Flask in the HBO version of this was 52 at the time? He's supposed to be, like, 18 and, like, practically barely a kid, you know? Like, but, like, yeah, it's hard enough to moderate the chat normally and keep things generally on topic. But, like, yeah, when I'm reading, if somebody just rolls in with something that makes no sense to me, I'm just going to time them out and go, I'll deal with this when I'm done reading, because I can't deal with this right now. So, yeah. You didn't say anything immoral, you just said something bizarre, and I don't have the mental capacity to deal with it. Okay. Merlin says, no yapping during Moby Dick. I mean, you guys can talk about stuff that's related to the book. You can talk about stuff that's related to what's already going on in the stream. You know, if somebody mentioned earlier, hey, I've been working on this crochet project while we read, and then they say, oh man, I just got something done with my crochet project that I'm really happy with. Like, that's fine. That's, even though that's, like, not part of the Moby Dick novel, that's still part of, like, the shared stream experience, right? Like, I'm not here to say, like, nothing except Moby Dick can be discussed during Moby Dick, but, like, if somebody hasn't said anything all stream and just rolls in with celebrity facts, and I don't even know anything about that celebrity, it's like, what are we doing, guys? That's gonna get a timeout. Yeah, people like, oh man, I'm really enjoying this. I wish I had some popcorn. That's fine. Somebody else like, oh, popcorn, I'm having this snack. That's fine. That's on topic. Let's see. In the Discord chat, Centauratron says, isn't the devil the one who's supposed to do the damning? You know what? I think that Stub can do a little bit of damning as a treat. I think that's fine, there, Centauratron. But, he can damn the devil, he can duck the devil, whatever. So, yeah. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts about Chapter 74? Flask and Stubb's little conversation. But, yeah. I mean, from a visual standpoint, like, the ship is already inlaid with whalebone. So it's like a death ship of whale already. And it's got 2 recently deceased whale heads, one on either side. Like, you know the ship in The Mandalorian? How it's, I think the ship in The Mandalorian has 2 jets kind of like that. You like, Like, the Pequod is now, like, this ivory death Mandalorian ship just sailing across the ocean with these two colossal, decapitated, bleeding heads attached to either side. That's kind of... it's interesting from a visual standpoint. I do like, too, that Melville's like, you know who also sucks is philosophers. Locke and Cant, get out of here. Like, okay, that's just what we're doing. Okay. Pum 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 pum. Taco Squirrel to you says, as someone who's barely listened to any Moby Dick streams, I have no idea what's going on, so this is fun. That's one of the reasons I chose this book, is because honestly, you kind of don't need to know what's going on. It's all over the place. And, like, we got, like, 26 chapters in before, like, the captain told the crew that they were going after Moby Dick, which is, like, what the, whole book is about. And it's, like, so, like, I mean, it's not that you shouldn't read the first 26 chapters, because they're all interesting and weird in different ways, and there's a lot of important stuff culturally. Like, this was the first story with the, oh no, our hotel room only has one bed thing that's, like, a huge thing in fan fiction now. Like, Herman Melville pioneered that. But anyway. Cake says, when you think about it, once a ship gathers one head, before it gets another one, it's always going to be tilted. Your whole life would play out on a tilted surface. Yeah, that's the thing, is that the ship was leaning before they got the second head. But now it's not leaning. It's just, heavily burdened. Which is what he was saying about Locke and Cant. Or Cont. I can't. Yeah, Melville throwing jabs at random dudes discussing rhetoric. Did he know these guys IRL? That's a great question, because Melville was a pretty rich and famous author before this book came out. I don't know if he hung out with Locke and Cant in real life. He might have been at parties with them, though. Like, because that's one of those things where it's like, if somebody was like, Joe, do you know this guy or do you know that guy? It's like, well, I don't really know them, but I have been at parties with the, like, the world is weird. Alpaca-tastic says, we have one whalehead, yes, but what about second whalehead? Merlin says that Stubbs' encounter with the mysterious silent... Well, the cook wasn't silent. He was tired. He was dragged out of bed. But Stubbs' encounter with the cook during the whale steak scene adds a darkly comic element, but also subtly critiques authority and hierarchy aboard the ship. Oh, yeah. Can I make a character from Australia? If it comes up. Most of these characters are supposed to... Like, the officers are mostly from Nantucket, and the other people... I'll see, Lizzie Mack. I don't have a good Australian accent. I don't practice it, but... I think, we're about... Ken Dreadful says, I checked, they both died before he was born. They were 16th century. Oh, no. That was wrong. Hold on, we're gonna redo this one. So, for this time-lapse to work well... Each pillar, I need to come out from behind here. I need to come out from behind the previous pillar and then start mining upward. Yeah, no problem, Merlin. No. Fleece actually does. Fleece goes and he proselytizes to the sharks. Critmonger says, if Melville invented the one bed trope, was he one of the first into shipping? I mean, there's arguably a lot of ships in this book. That's a good point. So the next chapter is going to be talking about the visual of the two ships, or not the two ships, the two heads of the whales attached to the ship. I should probably go ahead and remove the setting up now sign before we start the next chapter. Okay. So let's see. Take down the setting up now sign. We're going to real quick refresh the tips thing, make sure we haven't missed any. Nope, we are, according to my abacus, we are 19 away from the next face camera expansion milestone, and tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay, chapter 74 is the sperm whale's head contrasted view. You know what I realized we haven't done is we haven't updated our what we're reading links. So let's go ahead and get those updated in the pins on both Twitch and YouTube. Time for one of Ishmael's patented tangents, says Centaurtron. Oh, I know, Ishmael loves a good tangent. We are $19 away from the most obnoxious face camera expansion milestone, the Joni Stark helmet cam. But, okay. So here we go. We're going to eat this. It's noon in game. Oh my gosh, we've only made it to the halfway point. Oh, I really hope this time lapse goes faster on the back end. The second half, I think this is going to look really cool. I have a really interesting way I want to do this, where I'm going to take the video and layer it over itself like 80 times, because this is 80 blocks wide. And have me, as soon as I get done placing one pillar, I'm going to splice in me coming out from behind the next. So, or as soon as I get like up to the fourth or fifth block of one pillar, I'm going to splice in me coming out from behind the next one and starting on the one after that. And so it'll look like I'm actually building the whole thing simultaneously in like a weird slope. I think that'll look really cool. I've been trying to think about ways that I can take the grindy stuff in the game and do interesting geometric or otherwise exciting things with them, so that the time lapses aren't just like, bleh, that was sped up, right? You know, like, I've been making videos for so long, there's no reason for me to not really try to push myself each video, you know? So that's the plan. That's why I'm trying to be very precise about, like, coming out from behind there. And, oh, the other thing is I'm trying to fall backwards each time as soon as I get done with the pillar, rather than loitering at the top of the pillar. So, okay. I think what we're going to do is we're going to... whoops, that was a mistake. That's fine. Okay, so we're going to keep working on our pillars until the new day. Once night falls, then we'll sleep in the bed, and then we'll read Moby Dick. We'll get into chapter 74. Did anybody who just came in have the chance to check out the streamer's log? This was a new text-based Let's Play experiment that I am messing with. I want to try and do a quick summary of what I accomplish each stream on my website afterwards. So that way, people who can't catch every stream might be able to figure out like what I'm working on the server or that sort of thing. Also, one thing I noticed is that a whole bunch of people keep asking on the Reddit, like, oh man, I don't have time to watch a lot of videos. How can I get caught up on HermitCraft? And people are always like, watch the recap videos. And then the first person's like, no, I don't. Don't we have anything besides videos? Is there nothing else? It's all videos? I just can't watch videos for some reason because of some change in my life or work schedule or whatever. I used to watch videos all the time. Now I have less time for videos. So let me post that link real quick for anybody who wants to check out that. Oh, the other thing is I wanted to mention to people that I'm on bluesky.net now as joehills.net. I know there's been some concerns about some hermits being impersonated on there. I don't have a list of the hermits Blue Sky accounts yet. But yeah. That's definitely something that I wanted to make sure people know. For real, I am joehills.net. Okay, so here's the streamer's log. Now, this first one was the first time I'd ever done it, and it was also a 4-hour, 15-minute stream. So most of the streamer's logs would not be this detailed. Like this, the one for today would probably be I read chapters 73 through 74 of Moby Dick, and I worked on a time lapse to gather all the coal I needed for the project. And so some people were saying, you know, because I was like, even if I did like a recap video of each stream, part of the problem for me is I want to spend more time writing, and I also want to be able to reference, I need to keep better notes about what I accomplish each stream so I can go back and find certain clips later more easily for replay mod purposes. And so this seems like a good way. Basically, I was like, if I start taking better notes for myself, because I wanted to practice having better, or I want to have access to better notes, but I also want to practice writing, and I'll practice writing better if I post this publicly. Lizzie Mack says, is Blue Sky a Twitter alternative? It sure is, yeah. It's actually made by Jack Dorsey, the guy who made Twitter in the first place. Eventually, I want to set up a Mastodon. Right now, my goal is to mostly use Blue Sky to... anything that I think, oh, I should post this to Blue Sky or Tumblr, my goal is to just put it on my own website and then link it from those places. So I'm going to basically try to, instead of using social media to be my platform for ideas I have or thoughts I want to share, like, instead of posting my photos from the wedding to Twitter, I posted them to joehills.net/justmarried, right? And then on Twitter and Blue Sky or whatever, I said, hey, you can find my wedding pictures on my website. I'm basically moving all the stuff that used to be in those places onto my website and then letting people know via those places, oh, hey, if you want to see these wedding pictures, if you want to read my latest stream update, whatever. So if you're not using Blue Sky, you're not missing out much. Because in terms of what I'm doing, because everything I'm doing there at this point, I'm going to try to have hosted on my own website anyway. So there will be like stream alerts sometimes for the bonus streams. I'm not going to post stream alerts for the regular streams unless we have something really exciting going on. Like if we have a scheduled collab with like, oh, hey, we've got this game developer coming in for a phone call during the stream. Ken Dreadful says, that's smart. Self-hosting has way better longevity compared to volatile social networks these days. Exactly. That's a big part of why I'm changing how I'm approaching this. So, yeah. But yeah, I would love if you guys could check out that streamer's log. One thing I think Lizzie Mack mentioned was maybe have like a few quick bullet points. Yeah, this one was particularly complex because I did a lot of decision making. The one that I posted a link to has a lot of decision making in it. Like, it was a stream about making decisions, and then I made twice as many decisions as I planned to because the stream went 2 hours longer than I planned. But like for most streams, the log would be like today would be in order to record a time lapse for episode 36, which will be about hello, my name is Nametag. I realized I needed to move the beacon base. I found a great spot near the deep slate layer in a cave. Then I started, laying out the coal, and then I've got a cool plan to replay mod and edit this together in Final Cut Pro. I can't wait for you guys to see it. That sort of thing. That would be like the entire thing. Most confusing says, why is there a lamp on your screen? Because it's behind me. But the camera gets bigger when people tip, and we are 19 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/joehills and YouTube Super Chat. We are about to read the chapter 74 of Moby Dick, the sperm whale's head, contrasted view. Here, now, are two great whales laying their heads together. Let us join them and lay together our own. Of the grand order of folio leviathans, the sperm whale and the right whale are by far the most noteworthy. They are the only whales regularly hunted by man. To the Nantucketer, they present the two extremes of all the known varieties of the whale, as the external difference between them is mainly observable in their heads, and as a head of each is at this moment hanging from the quad side, and as we may freely go from one to the other by merely stepping across the deck, where, I should like to know, will you obtain a better chance to study practical cetology than here? In the first place, you are struck by the general contrast between these heads. Both are massive enough in all conscience, but there is a certain mathematical symmetry in the sperm whale's head, which the right whale's sadly lacks. There is more character in the sperm whale's head. As you behold it, you involuntarily yield the immense superiority to him in point of pervading dignity. In the present instance, too, this dignity is heightened by the pepper and salt color of his head at the summit, giving token of advanced age and large experience. In short, he is what the fishermen call a gray-headed whale. Let us now note what is least dissimilar in these heads, namely the two most important organs, the eye and the ear. Far back on the side of the head and low down near the angle of either whale's jaw, if you narrowly search, you will at last see a lashless eye, which you would fancy to be a young colt's eye. So out of all proportion is it to the magnitude of the head. Now, from this peculiar sideways position of the whale's eyes, it is plain that he can never see an object which is exactly ahead, no more than he can one exactly astern. In a word, the position of the whale's eyes correspond to that of a man's ears, and you may fancy for yourself how it would fare with you did you sideways survey objects through your ears. You would find that you could only command some 30 degrees of vision in advance of the straight side line of sight, and about 30 more behind it. If your bitterest foe were walking straight toward you with dagger uplifted in broad day, you would not be able to see him any more than if he was stealing upon you from behind. In a word, you would have two backs, so to speak, but at the same time, two fronts, side fronts. For what is it that makes the front of a man? What indeed but his eyes? Moreover, while in most other animals that I can think of, the eyes are so planted as imperceptibly to blend their visual power so as to produce one picture, and not two to the brain, the peculiar position of the whale's eyes, effectually divided as they are by many cubic feet of solid head, which towers between them like a great mountain separating two lakes in valleys. This, of course, must wholly separate the impressions which each independent organ imparts. The whale, therefore, must see one direct picture on this side and another distinct picture on that side, while all between must be profound darkness and nothingness to him. Man may, in effect, be said to look out on the world from a sentry box with two joined sashes for his window. But with the whale, these two sashes are separately inserted, making two distinct windows, but sadly impairing the view. The peculiarity of the whale's eye is a thing always to be borne in mind in the fishery, and to be remembered by the reader in some subsequent scenes. A curious and most puzzling question might be started concerning this visual matter as touching the Leviathan, but I must be content with a hint. So long as a man's eyes are open in the light, the act of seeing is involuntary. That is, he cannot then help mechanically seeing what objects are before him. Nonetheless, anyone's experience will teach him that though he can take in an undiscriminating sweep of things at one glance, it is quite impossible for him attentively and completely to examine any two things, however large or however small, at one and the same instant of time, never mind if they lay side by side and touch each other. But if you now come to separate these objects and surround each by a circle of profound darkness, then, in order to see one of them in such a manner as to bring your mind to bear on it, the other will be utterly excluded from your contemporary consciousness. How is it then with the whale? True, both his eyes in themselves must simultaneously act. But is his brain so much more comprehensive, combining, and subtle than man's that he can, at the same moment of time, attentively examine two distinct prospects, one on one side of him and the other in an exactly opposite direction? If he can, then that is a marvelous thing in him. As if a man were able simultaneously to go through the demonstrations of two distinct problems in Euclid. Nor, strictly investigated, is there any incongruity of this comparison. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna come out and do that one again. That's that one. There's gonna be a problem. Actually, I guess I am gonna fill that hole in like that, but whatever. It may be but an idle whim, but it has always seemed to me that the extraordinary vacillations of movement displayed by some whales when beset by 3 or 4 boats, the timidity and liability to queer frights so common to whales, I think that all this indirectly proceeds from the helpless perplexity of volition, in which their divided and diametrically opposite powers of vision must involve them. But The ear of the whale is as curious as the eye. If you are an entire stranger to their race, you might hunt over these two heads for hours and never discover that organ. The ear has no external leaf whatever, and into the hole itself you can hardly insert a quill, so wondrously minute is it. It is lodged a little behind the eye. With respect to their ears, this important difference is to be observed between the sperm whale and the right. While the ear of the former has an external opening, that of the latter is entirely and evenly covered over with a membrane, so as to be quite imperceptible from without. Is it not curious that so vast a being as the whale should see the world through so small an eye, and hear the thunder through an ear which is smaller than a hare's? But if his eyes were as broad as the lens of Herschel's great telescope, and his ears capricious as the porches of cathedrals, would that make him any longer of sight, or sharper of hearing? Not at all. Why then do you try to enlarge your mind? Subtilize it. Let us now, with whatever levers and steam engines we have at hand, cant over the sperm whale's head, that it may lie bottom up. Then, ascending by a ladder to the summit, have a peep down the mouth. And were it not that the body is now completely separated from it, with a lantern we might descend into the great Kentucky mammoth cave of his stomach. But let us hold on here by his tooth and look about us where we are. What a really beautiful and chaste-looking mouth, from floor to ceiling, lined, or rather papered, with a glistening white membrane, glossy as bridal satins. But come out now and look at this portentous lower jaw, which seems like the long, narrow lid of an immense snuff box, with the hinge at one end instead of one side. If you pry it up so as to get it overhead and expose its rows of teeth, it seems a terrific portcullis, and such, alas, it proves to many a poor wight in the fishery, upon whom these spikes fall with impaling force. But far more terrible is it to behold when, fathoms down in the sea, you see some sulky whale floating there, suspended with his prodigious jaw. Some 15 feet long, hanging straight down at right angles with his body, for all the world like a ship's jib boom. This whale is not dead. He is only dispirited, out of sorts perhaps, hypochondriac, and so supine that the hinges of his jaw have relaxed, leaving him there in that ungainly sort of plight, a reproach to all his tribe, who must no doubt imprecate lockjaws upon him. In most cases, this lower jaw, being easily unhinged by a practiced artist, is disengaged and hoisted on deck for the purpose of extracting the ivory teeth and furnishing a supply of that hard white whalebone with which the fishermen fashion all sorts of curious articles, including canes, umbrella stalks, and handles to riding whips. With a long, weary hoist, the jaw is dragged on board, as if it were an anchor. And when the proper time comes, some few days after the other work, Queequeg, Dagu, and Tashtego, being all accomplished dentists, are set to drawing teeth. With a keen cutting spade, Queequeg lances the gums. Then the jaw is lashed down to ring bolts, and a tackle being rigged from aloft, they drag out these teeth as Michigan oxen drag stumps of old oaks out of wild woodlands. There are generally 42 teeth in all. In old whales, much worn down, but undecayed, nor filled after our artificial fashion, the jaw is afterwards sawn into slabs and piled away like joists for building houses. And that concludes chapter 74 of Moby Dick, or the Whale, by Herman Melville. I like how this is a chapter where he talks about how hard it is to do two things simultaneously. And I will say, I am not actually reading and playing simultaneously. I'm kind of making the decisions about what to do between reading. Like, I've rehearsed these actions so many times. Like, it's when I'm doing complicated stuff in Minecraft, you'll notice I pause reading. But like, I'm just holding down a button right now, and I'm looking down at the book, and then I'm, kind of mentally pressing one and interpurling back down on the way. But yeah. Do I read chat, says Beeman10. I read the chat when I'm not reading Moby Dick. That's how I'm actually got so good at reading while playing Minecraft, was because I have been streaming for a long time, since 2008 now. And so I got used to playing video games while reading chat. One thing I do need to read real quick. Thank you very much to Kendra for tipping 8, who says, for weeks of whaling fun. Yay, Kendra. Thank you very much. Let's see. According to my count, we are 11 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Beeman says, I'm AFK at a wither farm. Wanted to show up and support a hermit. I'm always glad when people stop by. If you are familiar with HermitCraft in general, but haven't, really seen much of my work, that's understandable. I've been on HermitCraft since season 1, but I was one of the last hermits to quit my day job, because I was helping take care of my daughter while my ex-wife was doing a PhD in biophysics. And so my Minecraft stuff kind of, like, I wasn't publishing as frequently or whatnot as a lot of the other hermits. So channel growth was never a priority for me. This was just something I did as a creative outlet to deal with the stress of all that. I was able to finally go full-time during the pandemic, and I've really appreciated the opportunity to make more cool stuff that people enjoy. So glad to have you here. But yeah, I've been on since week 5 of season 1. I was the first person invited to join the server who was not a founding member of HermitCraft, making me the original new guy. Centauratron says, but whale eyes, though. I know, right? Yeah. He's very excited about the idea of looking out the sides of your head. And I know there's land animals that have, like some herbivores are more like that, because they can look for predators better. But it's just interesting, that he's all about that, like, but what if you were a whale? How would you see? Right? So he was chapter 74 was about the sperm whale's head. Chapter 75, which we're about to get to, is about the right whale's head. Yeah, also, for anybody coming in who's like, wait, do you always read Moby Dick? Like, what is this, like, a thing? So what it used to be is Saturday night, because a lot of people would be going out and doing fun stuff. I didn't want my Saturday night streams to be something that they would feel like, oh man, I can't miss that, right? I don't want people to be like, oh man, I got to choose between hanging out with my friends and watching my favorite show. So I was like, okay guys, here's what we're going to do. Saturday night, I'm going to pick all the grindiest tasks that I need to do to, like, gather materials for the week ahead. Like in this case, we're taking a bunch of coal, obviously, and we're creating this time lapse where I'm gonna come in from the left and just build all this and then carve it down from the right. It's gonna look better than it sounds. It's gonna take me way more time than I probably should spend, but I've had this idea in my head for a few seasons, and every time I've tried it, I've screwed something new up. So hopefully I haven't screwed something new up this time. I think I'm gonna nail it this time. But I've had this idea about a really interesting way to do a time lapse of breaking a bunch of ore, where I would come from the left, go all the way to the right, and then remove it in the opposite order. And I would superimpose it. So basically this is like 80 blocks wide of coal, right? Because that name tag is 80 blocks wide. We're doing the whole width of the name tag. So the idea is that every time that I get 5 blocks up is when I'll start the film strip, the vertical strip of me coming in from the other side here and placing the first block there. So it'll actually have me placing like several of these simultaneously. Does that make sense? But yeah, so anyway, so Saturday nights would be my really grindy streams, and I would occasionally like read poems or sing songs during the grindy streams. And one day I was just like, oh man, we should read the first few chapters of Dracula. It's really good and not enough people have read it. And I said that as a joke. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna faceplant on this so hard. I might be able to read a few poems while I do grindy stuff in Minecraft, but I'm not gonna be able to read a novel. But by that point, I had been streaming since 2008. It was like 2021, 2022. So I'd been streaming for like 13 or 14 years, reading chat, playing games. I actually kind of nailed it, and I was shocked. And so then it's like, okay, well, we're just going to read Dracula every week now until we finish the book. And so we finished the book, and then I said, okay, well, I don't want to start a new book until we start the new season of HermitCraft. We'll pick something then. And we ended up picking Moby Dick, and it's been a lot of fun. Jill Jackson, woo! Are you for real? Welcome, Creative Knots as well, who says, Joe, nice wall of coal. How are you doing? I'm almost done building this wall of coal. We are 3 columns away from completing this. And yeah, what I want to do is I want to pick books. They have to be in the public domain because I want the VODs to be able to stay live. So it has to be public domain. And I want to pick books that I genuinely enjoyed reading in the past. I don't want to do something I've never read before. We tried doing that with Don Quixote because I've always wanted to read it, and I never had the excuse. I was like, oh, I'll read Don Quixote on stream. Did you guys know that Don Quixote was like the Evil Dead movies of that era? I started reading Don Quixote, and I didn't know that it is like you know how in like Ash versus the Evil Dead, he'll like cut off a zombie's arms or head or stuff, and there'll just be like a 30-foot fountain of blood? Don Quixote is like a parody of adventure stories from Spain at that time about like knights errant, and it's like incredibly hyper violent, like cartoonishly violent. And as I'm like reading these like ludicrous descriptions of like decapitations and arms being chopped off and stuff, I'm like, you know, I mean, we read Dracula, and there's some blood in that. Like, Moby Dick has some butchery in it, but Don Quixote was too much. And I didn't know that it was going to be too much because I hadn't read it in advance. So one of the new requirements is I have to have read the book in advance. Ideally, it's something I read years ago but want to come back to. And so, yeah, I had read this book when Evan Dom did his version of it, maybe back in 2018, 2019, maybe earlier. And I had read Dracula back in like when I was a kid, and then I read it again right after I got out of college in like 2010. So Dracula, I hadn't reread it for 15 years, but I kind of knew what to expect, you know? But yeah, so never again on reading a book that I'm completely unfamiliar with. Like, I thought I knew what Don Quixote was about, and I did. I know what Don Quixote is about, but, like, I did not realize there was going to be so much incredibly graphic violence. And so, I mean, and this book has some graphic violence, too. But this is at least, like, historical fiction violence, whereas, like, the Don Quixote violence, like, the author was trying to make the novel equivalent of Evil Dead. And novels didn't even exist yet. Like, obviously, he had a lot figured out there. Okay, so that's the end. We're going to put a replay mod marker in for that bit. Float Opal says, I always marvel at how you're able to read while playing. My brain cannot handle that kind of multitasking. Oh, well, it's mostly just practice at this point. Oh, yeah, when I did the Van Helsing voice, I did have to let go of the mouse and keyboard because I was doing the Artie, the strongest man in the world voice from Pete and Pete. And you can't do that voice unless you're flexing. Friend John. Like you have to flex to do the Artie, the strongest man in the world. Like you can't do that voice while holding a keyboard and a mouse. That's not gonna work. Okay. So, now, here's what we're going to do. Like I said, I think I finally figured out how to do this. Sherlock Holmes is public domain recently, isn't it? Yeah. We're not picking a new book tonight. We're not picking a new book tonight. Creative Knots says, for a while now, I've been writing a bit of fanfic on HermitCraft, trying to get everybody's perspective in the book. Currently working on Pearls. Oh, have fun with that, Creative Knots. Okay. So, it's 81 times 64. That's a reasonable amount of coal. And we've got 8 minutes left in the traditional stream window. Now, it is Saturday, so I can go late. The thing is, I'm going to want to record all of this in one go. How long is the next chapter? So the next chapter is about the whale's head. The other whale's head. So I think we're gonna definitely do the next chapter. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wait for the sun to set in Minecraft. We're gonna sleep. Then we're gonna start recording the next segment. And we're probably only gonna read one more chapter of Moby Dick, chapter 75. So let me update our what we're reading link in both chats here, or all three actually. Centauratron says, yeah, Moby Dick has violence for information's sake, rather than violence for violence's sake. Yeah. Like, Don Quixote is, like, ludicrous. It's very interesting. And it has a value, but it's not what I want to read out loud during my stream. Centauratron says, I hope next book we have more noise to get it than it's Wednesday. The book starts Saturday. Well, I mean, I'm reading from Project Gutenberg, so you can read from Project Gutenberg too while you wait for it to get in the mail, you know. Hey, did you have fun at the haunted house there, Pop-Up? Welcome to the stream. We are just about to read chapter 75, The Right Whale's Head, Contrasted View in Moby Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville. We are turning night into day here. I'm going to post the tipping link again. Just as a reminder, I usually don't talk to the chat too much in the middle of a chapter. If any tips roll in, I'll acknowledge them at the end of the chapter or at a logical break in the chapter. This is not a super long chapter, so I'm going to try and go straight through on this. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay, this is going to be way easier if we can do it all in one take. Okay. So I need to stand behind here. We are going to need more ender pearls, actually. Let's get more ender pearls. Oh, no, we're not. Maybe. Let's get extra ender pearls just in case. Okay. So, chapter 75, The Right Whale's Head, Contrasted View. Okay, we're going to hit event marker to start the recording. Crossing the deck, let us now have a good long look at the right whale's head. As in general shape, the noble sperm whale's head may be compared to a Roman war chariot, especially in front, where it is so broadly rounded. So, at a broad view, the right whale's head bears a rather inelegant resemblance to a gigantic galliot-toed shoe. 200 years ago, an old Dutch voyager likened its shape to that of a shoemaker's last. And in this same last or shoe, that old woman of the nursery tale with the swarming brood might very comfortably be lodged, she and all her progeny. But as you come nearer to this great head, it begins to assume different aspects, according to your point of view. If you stand on its summit and look at these two F-shaped spout holes, you would take the whole head for an enormous bass viol. And these spiracles, the apertures in its sounding board. Then again, if you fix your eye upon this strange crested comb-like incrustation on the top of the mass, this green barnacled thing, which the Greenlanders call the crown, and the southern fishers the bonnet of the right whale, fixing your eyes solely on this, you would take the head for the trunk of some huge oak, with a bird's nest in its crotch. At any rate, when you watch those live crabs that nestle here on this bonnet, such an idea will almost be sure to occur to you. Unless, indeed, your fancy has been fixed by the technical term crown, also bestowed upon it, in which case you will take great interest in thinking how this mighty monster is actually a diademed king of the sea, whose green crown has been put together for him in this marvelous manner. But if this whale be a king, he is a very sulky-looking fellow to grace a diadem. Look at that hanging lower lip. What a huge sulk and pout is there. I'm realizing I don't have a crafting bench to combine any of this down. That's going to be a problem later. A sulk and pout by carpenter's measurement, about 20 feet long and 5 feet deep. A sulk and pout that will yield you some 500 gallons of oil and more. A great pity now that this unfortunate whale should be hair-lipped. The fissure is probably about a foot across. The mother was probably sailing during an important interval down the Peruvian coast when earthquakes caused the breach to gape. Over this lip, as over a slippery threshold, we now slide into the mouth. Upon my word, were I at Mackinac, I should take this to be the inside of a native wigwam. Good Lord, is this the road that Jonah went? The roof is about 12 feet high and runs to a pretty sharp angle, as if there were a regular ridgepole there, while these ribbed, arched, hairy sides present us with those wondrous half-vertical scimitar slats of whalebone, say 300 on a side. Which, depending from the upper part of the head or crown bone, form those Venetian blinds which have elsewhere been cursorily mentioned. The edges of these bones are fringed with hairy fibers, through which the right whale strains the water, and in whose intricacies he retains the small fish, when open-mouthed he goes through the seas of Brit in feeding time. In the small central blinds of bone, as they stand in their natural order, there are certain curious marks, curves, hollows, and ridges, whereby some whalemen calculate the creature's age, as the age of an oak by its circular rings. Though the certainty of this criterion is far from demonstrable, yet it has the savor of analogical probability. At any rate, if we yield to it, we must grant a far greater age to the right whale than at first glance seems reasonable. In old times, there seem to have prevailed the most curious fancies concerning these blinds. One voyager in Purchas calls them the wondrous whiskers inside of the whale's mouth. Another, hog's bristles. A third old gentleman in Hakluyt uses the following elegant language. There are about 250 fins growing on each side of his upper chop, which arch over his tongue on each side of his mouth. This reminds us that the right whale really has a sort of whisker, or rather a mustache, consisting of a few scattered white hairs on the upper part of the outer end of the lower jaw. Sometimes these tufts impart a rather brigandish expression to his otherwise solemn countenance. As everyone knows, these same hogs, bristles, fins, whiskers, blinds, or whatever you please, furnish to the ladies their busks and other stiffening contrivances. But in this particular, the demand has long been on the decline. It was in Queen Anne's time that the bone was in its glory, the farthingale being then all the fashion. And as those ancient dames moved about gaily through, though in the jaws of the whale, as you may say, even so, in a shower, with the like thoughtlessness do we nowadays fly under the same jaws for protection, the umbrella being a tent spread o'er the same bone. But now, forget all about blinds and whiskers for a moment, and, standing in the right whale's mouth, look around you afresh. Seeing all these colonnades of bone so methodically ranged about, would you not think you were inside of the great Harlem organ, gazing up upon its 1,000 pipes? For a carpet to the organ, we have a rug of the softest Turkey, the tongue, which is glued, as it were, to the floor of the mouth. It is very flat, very fat, and tender. And apt to tear in pieces in hoisting it on the deck. This particular tongue now before us, at a passing glance, I should say it was a 6-barreler. That is, it will yield you about that amount of oil. Ere this, you must have plainly seen the truth of what I started with, that the sperm whale and the right whale have almost entirely different heads. To sum up, then, in the right whales, there is no great well of sperm, no ivory teeth at all, no long, slender mandible of a lower jaw like the sperm whales, nor in the sperm whale are there any of those blinds of bone, no huge lower lip, and scarcely anything of a tongue. Again, the right whale has 2 external spout holes, the sperm whale only 1. Look your last now on these venerable hooded heads, where they yet lie. Together, for one will soon sink, unrecorded, in the sea. The other will not be very long in following. Okay, I normally don't kill these guys, but I feel like this is going to actually create a problem in the recording. Sorry, bud. Wrong place, wrong time. They're describing the tongue of the whale as a carpet. Okay. I'm regretting. I've got a few things that I'm making notes on that I could have done better. I should have dug a trench behind this for me to fall into on each one. And I also should have built a bubble vader to the top. But it's fine. We're learning. This is going to be fine. Is my lamp supposed to be in the middle of the screen? Well, the people decide where the lamp goes. We are currently $19 away from the lamp going away, but nobody has given that money, so presumably the people love the lamp. Okay. Look your last now on these venerable hooded heads while they yet lie together, for one will soon sink, unrecorded in the sea. The other will not be very long in following. Can you catch the expression of the sperm whales there? It is the same he died with. Only some of the longer wrinkles in the forehead seem now faded away. I think his broad brow to be full of a prairie-like placidity, born of a speculative indifference to death. But mark the other head's expression. See that amazing lower lip, pressed by accident against the vessel's side, so as firmly to embrace the jaw? Does not this whole head seem to speak of an enormous practical resolution in facing death? The right whale I take to have been a Stoic, the sperm whale a Platonian, who might have taken up Spinoza in his latter years. Okay, yeah, so this is... Melville is getting extra philosophical. He's name-dropped Kant, Kant, Locke, and Spinoza now, as well as Plato. Jill Jackson tips 20 and says, I love lamp, but I could learn to not love lamp. Let me... Hold on. I can't get this on the abacus until we're done with this downward segment. This is actually really important for me to get these unbroken segments. And then I go behind there. Okay. So, let's get that 20 on here. There's 11. Boom. That gets us 11 away from the next... Wait. Does that work? Hold on. No. Hold on. Yeah, that gets us 1 away, because we were 19 away. Wait. No, so we're 19... We should be 19 away again. Hold on. Yeah, okay, yes. We're 19 away now from the next face camera expansion milestone, because that was a full 20. Thank you very much to Jill Jackson. So here we go. It's time to hit the most obnoxious face camera expansion milestone, the Joni Stark Helmet Cam Expand Jost. Do-do-do-do. And we are going to lower the Joe Pasty now to 60%. Thank you, Jill Jackson. Woo! Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. We were and are, again, 19 away from the next expansion. Okay, so this next chapter, 76, is called The Battering Ram. And it's not very long. And I'm realizing I really want to get all this done in one continuous recording. So it might make sense for me to read at least one more chapter. Although, we could just focus on getting the recording done and not the reading. And maybe go a little quicker. I'm not sure. Like, to some degree, getting a specialized time-lapse for editing takes the amount of time it takes. Because there's all sorts of shortcuts here I could take to not run along this and whatnot, but the idea of having all of the me's running along the top there before I start digging down, I think is really going to sell this. And I might... Yeah. I think we're going to want it. It would be faster if I had another scaffold, or if I ender pearled up, or if I flew. I've tried all of these things on other attempts at a similar time-lapse to this concept, and it was never where I wanted it to be. Jill Jackson says, whales are just chock full of different goops. Yep. Joe, when do you think you might be streaming next, says Creative Nuts. You can always find my stream schedule on my website at joehills.net/soon. You might have already left. But if you're still here, that is that. Bum, bum, bum. I should turn off the candles now that they're not in frame. Now that they're not in frame, they're out of flame as well. Out of frame, yeah. Okay. So yeah, anybody have any other thoughts on chapter 75? It was a pretty straightforward chapter, I think. Just explaining whales. So let's just jump right into chapter 76. I'm not even going to bother updating the link because it's a short chapter. And I really want to get this done. Time is a factor. Chapter 76, the battering ram. Ere quitting for the nonce, the sperm whale's head, I would have you, as a sensible physiologist, simply particularly remark in its front aspect, in all its compacted collectedness. I would have you investigate it now with the sole view of forming yourself to some unexaggerated, intelligent estimate of whatever battering ram power may be lodged there. Here is a vital point, for you must either satisfactorily settle this matter with yourself, or forever remain an infidel as to one of the most appalling, but not the less true events, perhaps anywhere, to be found in all recorded history. You observe that in the ordinary swimming position of the sperm whale, the front of his head presents an almost wholly vertical plane to the water. You observe that the lower part of that front slopes considerably backwards, so as to furnish more of a retreat for the long socket which receives the boom-like lower jaw. You observe that the mouth is entirely under the head, much in the same way, indeed, as though your own mouth were entirely under your chin. What? Moreover, you observe that the whale has no external nose, and that what nose he has, his spout hole, is on the top of his head. You observe that his eyes and ears are at the sides of his head, and nearly 1/3 of his entire length from the front. Wherefore, you must now have perceived that the front of the sperm whale's head is a dead, blind wall, without a single organ or tender prominence of any sort whatsoever. Furthermore, you are now to consider that only in the extreme lower backward sloping part of the front of the head is there the slightest vestige of bone, and not till you get near 20 feet from the forehead do you come to the full cranial development, so that this whole enormous boneless mass is as one wad. Finally, though, as will soon be revealed, its contents partly comprise the most delicate oil. Yet you are now to be apprised of the nature of the substance which so impregnably invests all that apparent effeminacy. In some previous place, I have described to you how the blubber wraps the body of the whale, as the rind wraps an orange. Just so with the head. But with this difference, about the head is this envelope, though not so thick, is of a boneless toughness, inestimable by any man who has not handled it. The severest pointed harpoon, the sharpest lance darted by the strongest arm, impotently rebounds from it. It is as though the forehead of the sperm whale were paved with horses' hooves. I do not think that any sensation lurks in it. Bethink yourself of another thing. When two large loaded men chance to crowd and crush toward each other in the docks, what do the sailors do? They do not suspend between them, at the point of coming contact, any merely hard substance like iron or wood. No, they hold there a large round wad of tow and cork, enveloped in the thickest and toughest of oxhide, that bravely and uninjured takes in the jam which would have snapped all their oaken handspikes and iron crowbars. By itself, this sufficiently illustrates the obvious fact I drive at. I think... Okay, I misread that. That was two loaded ships. Sorry. By itself, this sufficiently illustrates the obvious fact that I drive at. But supplementary to this, it has hypothetically occurred to me that as ordinary fish possess what is called a swimming bladder in them, capable, at will, of distension or contraction, and the sperm whale, as far as I know, has no such provision in him, considering, too, the otherwise inexplicable manner in which he now presses his head altogether beneath the surface, and anon swims with it high elevated out the water, considering the unobstructed elasticity of its envelope, considering the unique interior of his head, it has hypothetically occurred to me, I say, that those mystical lung-celled honeycombs there may possible have some hitherto unknown and unsuspected connection with the outer air, so as to be susceptible to atmospheric distensions and contraction. If this be so, fancy the irresistibleness of that might to which the most impalpable and destructive of all elements contributes. Now, mark. Unerringly impelling this dead, impregnable, uninjurable wall, and this most buoyant thing within, there swims behind it all a mass of tremendous life, only to be adequately estimated as piled wood is, by the cord, and all obedient to one volition, as the smallest insect. So, that when I shall hereafter detail to you all the specialities and concentrations of potency everywhere lurking in this expansive monster, when I shall show you some of his more inconsiderable braining feats, I trust you will have renounced all ignorant incredulity, and be ready to abide by this, that though the sperm whale stove a passage through the Isthmus of Darien and mixed the Atlantic with the Pacific, you would not elevate one hair of your eyebrow. But clear truth is a thing for salamander giants only to encounter. How small the chances for the provincials, then? What befell the weakling youth lifting the dread goddess's veil at Lace? I don't know this dread goddess at Lace. Does anybody know what that is about? Dread goddess at Lace? I really need to keep moving and not get distracted Googling stuff. So, we're gonna keep going here. But yeah, so basically he's like, the whale has a huge head, and it can serve as a battering ram. And this might come up later in the novel. Spoiler alert. Hey, we got a tip rolling in. Thank you very much. I am going to acknowledge that as soon as we get done with this column. Because of the way I'm doing this replay mod recording, and I want to edit me removing 81 columns of stone simultaneously in the video, I really cannot pause in the middle of a run. Once I turn that corner to climb the scaffolding there, I need to keep on course until I duck back behind the coal. I really think this is going to look cool. I'm very excited about this. Centaurtron says, I don't recognize it from Greek mythology. Fair enough. Okay, so once I duck behind this column, I'll go ahead and thank whoever just tipped. Let's go ahead and pull that up. Gripmonger! Calling for an expanded Joe for all. Bigger heads make for balance. Yeah, this is... Oh, wait, hold on. We were 19 away. Yeah. We weren't... Okay. Gosh. Okay, I screwed up the abacus last time. Yes. We were 19 away from the next one. But I know that doesn't look like that was 20 beads. It's because I accidentally did 30 last time. I was really messed up when I was trying to do that last one. Okay. We're back on track. We were 19 away, and then we got 20, and then we were 19 away again, and then I just put 20, and then another 4, which now gets us 15 away. Okay, Gritmonger, there's all your 24 on there. So we are 5 into the next one. Here we go. It's T. Joe Eckhilsberg. Expand. Jost. Do. Oh, no. Where's the... Yeah, okay. So the camera's in a slightly different place than I'm used to. Oh, gosh. I'm doing my best. I feel like I'm looking... the camera should be centered. Whatever. Okay. Either way, we're going to make that slightly larger for that T. Joe Eckhilsberg effect. There we go. And we are going to lower the opacity now to 50%. That puts us now 15 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Thank you very much, Gripmonger. Okay. This is one of those things, like, if I can do this all in one continuous recording, it's going to save me so much time in post-production. So, I know we're running a little late on the stream. How long is this next chapter? Chapter 77, The Great Heidelberg Ton. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to update the What We're Reading link to chapter 77. We're going full send on this. This stream is going to run until we get all this done. I don't know how much more Moby Dick I'm going to have time to read. I really could use another drink, but I don't want to waste the time to get up because I can't do music. Let me see if Badger is still awake. Any chance I could get another drink? I could please get... Yes, let's be polite. In case I could please get another drink. I can't do music during the Moby Dick stream, so we don't lose the VOD. No worries if you are already in bed. Thanks. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna definitely need... Because I brought 2 drinks down for this, but I didn't realize how long this pillar was going to take to do. So here we go. We're starting the next run. Did I post chapter 77 on the other one? Yeah, I did. Okay. So, chapter 77, The Great Heidelberg Ton. Now comes the bailing of the case. But to comprehend it aright, you must know something of the curious internal structure of the thing operated upon. Regarding the sperm whale's head as a solid oblong, you may, on an inclined plane, sideways divide it to make 2 coins. Coins is not a Euclidean term. It belongs to pure nautical mathematics. I know not that it has been defined before. A coin is a solid which differs from a wedge in having its sharp ends formed by the steep inclination of one side, instead of the mutual tapering of both sides. Whereof the lower coin is the bony structure, forming the cranium and jaws, and the upper an unctuous mass, wholly free from bones, its broad forward end forming the expanded vertical apparent forehead of the whale. At the middle of the forehead, horizontally subdivide this upper coin, and then you have two almost equal parts, which before were naturally divided by an internal wall of a thick tendinous substance. The lower subdivided part, called the junk, is one immense honeycomb of oil, formed by the crossing and recrossing into 10,000 infiltrated cells of tough, elastic white fibers throughout its whole extent. The upper part, known as the case, may be regarded as the great Heidelberg ton of the sperm whale. And as that famous great tierce is mystically carved in front, so the whale's vast plated forehead forms innumerable strange devices for the emblematical... I can't scroll until we get to the bottom, and now I need to use a bed. Oh, that was really helpful. Good job, me. Let me get these cups out of the way, too. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. Jill Jackson says, according to my annotated edition, he meant Sace when he wrote lace, and it's a reference to where a guy lifts the veil of Isis. Okay. Thank you very much, Jill Jackson, for that. The veil of Isis. Now we know. Okay. Okay, so we're about to turn the corner and do another one of these. I'm not timing how long these are taking, but it feels like these are taking longer than I hoped they would. And we might have to go get wood for more storage. Hey, thank you so much, Badger. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know if you're watching the stream, but I got this complex idea for a replay mod thing. So I'm kind of like, I've got to do this 81 column thing like the same way. Or almost the same way 81 times, and then I'm going to layer them over themselves transparently. So it'll be like one of those Mario runs where like all the little Marios are running around. Yeah, it's going to look cool, but it's taking me longer than I thought. But I really need to do it all in one recording for the replay mod to not be a mess. So thank you. Appreciate the drink. Okay. Okay. So anyway, the upper part, known as the case, may be regarded as the great Heidelberg ton of the sperm whale. And as that famous great tierce is mystically carved in front, so the whale's vast plated forehead forms innumerable strange devices for the emblematical adornment of his wondrous ton. Moreover, as that of Heidelberg was always replenished with the most excellent of the wines of the Rhenish valleys, so the ton of the whale contains by far the most precious of all his oily vintages, namely the highly prized spermaceti, in its absolutely pure, limpid, and odoriferous state. Nor is this precious substance found unalloyed in any other part of the creature. Though in life... Dang it. I'm not going to use that part. We got to restart that run. Though in life it remains perfectly fluid, yet upon exposure to the air after death, it soon begins to concrete, sending forth beautiful crystalline shoots, as when the first thin, delicate ice is just forming in water. A large whale's case generally yields about 500 gallons of sperm, though from unavoidable circumstances, considerable of it is spilled, leaks, and dribbles away. or is otherwise irrevocably lost in the ticklish business of securing what you can. I know not with what fine and costly material the Heidelberg ton was coated within, but in superlative richness that coating could not possibly have compared with the silken pearl-colored membrane, like the lining of a fine pelisse, forming the inner surface of the sperm whale's case. It will have been seen that the Heidelberg ton of the sperm whale embraces the entire length of the top of the head. And since, as has been elsewhere set forth, the head embraces 1/3 of the whole length of the creature, then setting that length down at 80 feet for a good-sized whale, you have more than 26 feet for the depth of the ton when it is lengthwise hoisted up and down against a ship's side. As in decapitating the whale, the operator's instrument is brought close to the spot where an entrance is subsequently forced upon or into the spermaceti magazine. He has therefore to be uncommonly heedful, lest a careless, untimely stroke should invade the sanctuary and wastingly let out its contents. It is this decapitated end of the head, also, which at last elevated out of the water and retained in that position by the enormous cutting tackles, whose hempen combinations on one side make quite a wilderness of ropes in that quarter. Thus much being said, attend now, I pray you, to that marvelous and, in this particular instance, almost fatal operation, whereby the sperm whale's great Heidelberg ton is tapped. Jill Jackson, rolling back to the annotated edition, says the Heidelberg ton was a huge wine cask in Heidelberg Castle that held 49,000 gallons. Jeez. That's a lot of gallons. So, that is a huge thing. I feel like we are almost to the halfway point here. Maybe we're at it. The beacon's at the halfway point. And I can't see the beacon beam out of the corner of my eye here. Yeah, there. Oh, boy. Yeah, I really wanted to do all this in one go, but we might have to have like a drop dead time where it's like, okay, if I haven't finished this by midnight, we're just going to call it. I think it's only 11 now. It's only 11 now, and I'm really hoping that I can get this done in one take. But yeah, I can't dally. Just as a quick reminder, we're going to post the streaming tip link. If you enjoy the show, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay, up we go. Nick says, I'm afraid that the camera isn't close enough to your face. Oh, don't worry. The camera gets closer when we hit certain tipping milestones. We are currently 15 away from the next one. So if anybody wants to further unnerve Nick, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Chili Ember, I'm having a hard time. I can't look directly into the camera because I've got a lot to look at. I'm reading the chats. I'm looking at the email alerts. When tips roll in, I'm looking at pre-reading chapter 78, which, let me check how long 78 is. What I don't want to do is I don't want to start reading an insanely long chapter. I think, chapter 78 has a lot of voices in it. I think we're done. I think chapter 77 was the last chapter we're going to read. We're just going to hang out and talk at this point, if you don't mind, y'all. So that I can focus on getting this time-lapse done. Nick, the cut you get from that promotion is that my face would get bigger if it happens. But if not, it doesn't. That's what you get. That's what you get when you show up at streams. Ooh. But yeah, we read, I think we started with chapter 74 tonight. And, no, wait, that can't be right. We read several chapters about whale heads. We read about the oil. Luckily, my pickaxe isn't breaking, because we're getting so many levels from all this. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Do we need to let the sun set? Yeah, let's let the sun set. We started with chapter 73, and this next chapter is 78. Okay, so we got 5 chapters, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, yeah. We're making progress through the book. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put OBS back where I like to have it, instead of where normally OBS would go where Moby Dick goes. So, has anybody, I keep asking y'all, and, like, people hadn't had a chance to play it earlier, so I'm coming back to this question. Have you guys had the chance to play UFO 50 at all? I started playing Grimstone the other day, while I had some, replay mod stuff running. So, a quick rehash of what UFO 50 is, if you don't know. UFO 50 is a collection of 50 games created in the last 7 years, with the premise being that they're a, like, 50-in-1 games collection from an alternate universe. Like, imagine if in the NES era there had been a console called the LX2, and it was like an 8-bit console that had slightly better color palette abilities than the NES, and didn't have sprite flickering. And so they made 50 games over the course of 7 years that might not have... Some of them could have stood on their own. Max and Mini, in particular, is an incredible open-world adventure game that I really enjoyed in there. I beat Max and Mini. And I've been playing Rock on Island, which is the... what do you call it? Tower defense game. Which is really cool. Caveman-based tower defense game. But what I haven't gotten to is... I wanted to wait to play some of the longer RPGs until I beat Max and Mini and kind of saw Matt Wilson's survey of all 50 UFO 50 games. And let's see. Draco Leech says, hey, I played some. Quibble Race is fun. Yeah, that one looked interesting. I haven't gotten to that one yet. But that one's where you... Gritmonger says, that sounds like a Brothers Chaps project. Yeah, it does. It was created by Derek Yu, was one of the lead developers on it. He founded Mossmouth Games and created Spelunky and Spelunky 2. He also worked with the developers of several other indie games, including the developer behind Downwell was a pretty popular one. I haven't played Downwell myself, but some folks might recognize that guy's name. But yeah, it's a really interesting alternate history kind of fun retro gaming project. where basically a bunch of indie game developers got together and they made 50 indie games that are kind of basic in terms of graphics and sound. They reuse a lot of the music and the sound effects between the games because part of the premise is that the studio was like kind of broke and reused a lot of assets. But like that way they could focus on the gameplay stuff. So I don't find it too disconcerting. It's a little weird. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. But the latest one I started playing while I was doing my replay mod stuff on the previous video is called Grimstone. And it's a role-playing game that takes place in post-apocalyptic Texas. Basically, demons and devils have risen from the ground 50 years ago, and Texas is now called Hell. And basically, at the beginning of the game opens with you playing as an angel who is has to choose who to save from a fire in a tavern. And the 4 characters you save will end up being the party in the game. And so it's kind of like in it's kind of based on the original Final Fantasy, where you have like 4 characters. Like one of them is a doctor named Doc. I didn't save Doc because I kind of saw which characters Matt Wilson chose for that review, and then said, okay, I want to choose different characters. So instead of choosing Doc, I chose the dog. I didn't choose the dancer. I chose the rich lady. Like, I chose a lot of characters that I wouldn't have chosen otherwise, just because I was like, well, I've already seen Matt's UFO 50 review of Grimstone. I want to play the game a different way and have my own experience, you know? Gritmonger says, so just Texas. Yeah, just Texas then. But yeah, so it's been pretty interesting so far. I think my characters are around level 6 or 7. I like that teeth are the currency, and so when you fight monsters that have a lot of teeth, you get more currency, but when you fight like slime monsters at the end of the battle, you still get experience, but you don't get any teeth. It's like, that's a fun touch. Jill Jackson says, isn't there a Hell, Texas already? Yes, there is, Jill Jackson. There is indeed a Hell, Texas. But yeah, I've been... another game that I was hoping to play on stream with Badger at some point is called Night Manor. And that is the only horror game in the pack. And it is a point-and-click adventure game where you need to find... You know, oh no, there's a locked door. Well, is there a hairpin somewhere that you can find, or a key, and then you can use hairpin on door? That sort of thing. So we played about 20 minutes of that just to see if it would be fun for a stream, and I think it would be. But we don't have the mic set up for a 2-person stream in here yet, with all the changes. Jubilee says, is the opacity higher than normal for this scale? No, the lighting might be different though. Like the camera is still 50% opaque, but it also depends on like what I'm looking at sometimes. But no, this is 50% opacity. I mean, if it's bothering you though, we are only $15 away from the next face camera expansion milestone, and tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Gusty Gale says using teeth for currency is very Warhammer 40k orcish. Ah. But yeah, I'm having fun with it so far. It's got a timing based attack system for the bows and the guns and stuff, which is not super great for something that I'm alt-tabbing in and out of in replay mod mode. Something that's purely turn-based is better for replay mod, but... Nick says, so do we think Ahab would even find true happiness or fulfillment if he caught the whale? Or is his purpose the seeking of revenge, and not the revenge itself? I mean, I think that if he killed the whale, As they say in the show Perfect Strangers, you got some splaining to do. Wait, no, is that I Love Lucy? Because he did commandeer the whole ship and stuff. But the thing is, though, the white whale is supposedly a particularly large whale that would have a lot of whale oil in it. So if he did kill the white whale, he could theoretically end the journey a few months earlier because of just the sheer amount of whale oil that he would extract from it. And so a shorter journey is technically more profitable because then they can refit the ship and get back out on the water sooner. But he would have to explain why he hired his own like additional 7 guys, Fadula being the leader of that crew. I mean, I feel like it'd be one of those things where, like, would he be happy? I think he would be. Like, he would also probably panic. Like, because the question is, how much capacity for self-reflection does he have? Because, like, I think it's one of those things where he would accomplish this and be like, oh, wait. Like, well, now I'm gonna have a few other problems, but, like, I'm coming home early with enough whale oil. In theory, it's one of those beg forgiveness, ask permission things. I don't know. Like, I think Ahab is legitimately in a bad place here, and he's fixated on the whale in a way that's definitely not healthy. But if he actually succeeded at defeating the white whale without destroying the ship and the crew, would he find happiness? I think there'd be a chance of it. I don't think that he's, like, completely... I don't think that he's somebody who's beyond redemption at this point. You know, he comes from a background religiously in Nantucket that is going to favor second chances and forgiveness. Like, I think he might be okay. Like, you know, it's one of those things like, okay, here's how I'm gonna put it. Like, do I think he would be happy if he killed the whale? I don't think killing the whale would bring him happiness, but I think it might give him an opportunity for reflection that would allow him to find relief eventually. Thank you, Badger. I'm not going to read that out loud on the stream, but I appreciate that. Okay, we are about halfway through this. If we are not nearly done by midnight, I'm going to wrap this up. But, like, this will be so much easier to edit if it's just one clip. Are there fireworks going off or something? I wonder if that's construction demolition noise. Normally they wouldn't do detonations this late. It's very strange. There's always a lot of noise in Nashville. But yeah, here we go. I know this is really repetitive, you guys, but this is how we get a take where I split into 81 separate bodies and then demolish this wall in one go. Did not really think about how long this would take when I was devising this. Every time I've tried to do this before, it was on a much smaller scale. And But this is one of those things I have tried to get this particular shot. This is, oh, hey, maybe there's a Moby Dick analogy here, where I've had this idea for this particular shot where I'm doing resource harvesting. And every time I did it, I screwed something up in a new way. And I was like, next time I won't make that mistake. And I feel like I finally screwed it up in all the ways possible that I can actually have this shot come together. Nick says, I like the thoughtful response. I just always think about characters' purpose and if their obsession is actually in line with that. Well, the thing is, though, he wants to captain a good ship. And to some degree, he's worried. Okay, so as somebody who was very physically fit, and then I had medical issues, and then I was less competent physically for a long time, and still am to some degree, like, a lot of my whole sense of identity revolved around my career path, which required physical activity. When I got my medical problems, I was a midshipman in Naval ROTC as a Marine option. I was planning on becoming a Marine infantry officer after I graduated from college. And when all of a sudden I couldn't get out of bed for like 3 months, and then was basically told you're never going to be able to eat without taking medication again, like, and any sort of medication like that's required like that to live, you can't serve in the military basically like that. At least, you know, not coming in as a midshipman into a lieutenant situation. So, like, I could kind of see somebody who's lost some aspect of his physicality required for his career freaking out about that. And I think to some degree, what Ahab is trying to... He's fixated on the whale, but I think his purpose is partially... Like, he wanted to be the captain of a whaling ship. He's living his dream. He's finally got his dream job, and now he's lost his leg, and he's freaked out, and he's fixated on this white whale. And I don't think if he killed the white whale, he'd magically be happy or magically be at peace with his lost limb. But I think it would give him a breather. And also, because, once again, the white whale, one of the things that they keep saying is because it's got that huge hump, they think it's got, like, an extra large well of whale oil, like the spermaceti whale oil, which is the most valuable part in general. If he actually came home 3 months early because they completely filled the ship with oil faster because this was such a great prize whale, you know, he'd be proving to the other captains that he's still able. I feel like he might be okay. He's obviously taking this white whale thing a bit too far. Clearly, hiring his own crew out off the books, out of his own pocket, that's not cool. That's weird. That's a weird, unacceptable thing to do. But, I mean, in general, though, his job is to hunt whales. And if he's like, I'm going to hunt a whale that gets us rich and proves that I'm still just as good a captain as I think I should be, I don't think that, like, here's what's unhealthy is his obsession. Obsession, I think it can be intrinsically unhealthy. If he completely was just like, man, if I see that whale again, I'm gonna kill him. Well, that's fine. If you see any sperm whale again in this line of work, you're gonna kill him. That's literally your job. But then he was just like, okay, let's go to work. Let's do the job. If he just did the job normally and ran into Moby Dick and then did manage to kill him, I don't think that would be bad for his self-esteem. I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong beyond, like, the questionable ethics of all whale hunting. I don't think him killing the whale that took his leg is in any way more morally problematic than him killing any other whale. I think what's morally problematic is when you become so obsessed with something, you lie to the partners you own the ship with. You know, the retired captains who are back in Nantucket. It's, you know, it's allowing his obsession with the whale to separate himself from the people he trusts. That's problematic. Not, you know, not the specific thing of killing Moby Dick. Okay, we're going to fly off here and go get a... We're going to put a replay mod marker in. I got to get another set of chests. Is it less morally problematic for him to kill the whale because the whale took his leg? I mean, I will say, if there's a bear that attacks a human, or a dog that attacks a human, like animals that attack humans, in general, as a society, broadly speaking, we're more okay with killing an animal that has dismembered a human. An animal that has taken off a person's leg, more people, even if they love that particular type of animal, are more likely to be like, yeah, well, sometimes there's not much you can do. Yeah, that's a bad case. Like, that we don't want that thing hurting anybody else, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, yeah, I don't think that there's anything worse about killing a whale that took off your particular leg versus killing a whale in general. Is it, like, what's morally problematic, aside from the whale hunting thing, is just his obsession, I think. It's him lying to everybody else that I think is problematic. But yeah, sorry, we were talking about UFO 50. We got distracted in our Moby Dick stream talking about video games. And then we got distracted from talking about video games by talking about Moby Dick. But yeah, some people in the Discord have posted a list of games that they saw in Matt Wilson's review that they'd like me to play. I'm looking forward to playing more of those. This streamer's log thing that I'm experimenting with is also a way for me to generate some sort of meaningful... What I want to do is I want to practice analyzing and writing about things more. And I'm not, like, a trained reviewer or critic. And so I struggle sometimes to think about, like, what I should write about movies or games or books I've read or enjoyed. Or, even worse, ones I don't like. It's like, I don't know if I'm qualified to speak about this, but, like, I spend a lot of time thinking about media and presenting things. And if I frame it as my opinion, I feel like that's fair. But, you know, so like, for example, so the streamer's logs wouldn't only be for the HermitCraft streams, but also, hey, here's what we did in Satisfactory today. Here's what we did playing UFO 50 today. I want, I realize that sometimes when I'm stressed out, I tend to stream just kind of like as a way for me to just relax and unwind at the end of a stressful day. And that's good. That has a value. But, like, what I end up doing, if I'm not careful, is I'll have, like, if I've got a really stressful, like, couple weeks, I'll spend 10 days just mining out the same range of mountains. And yeah, okay, mining those out takes 10 days, but, like, I need to be thinking about, hey, did I do anything different today than I did yesterday in the stream? Because, like, part of my goal here is to entertain and distract you guys from your problems. And if I'm not reminding myself to mix it up a little bit, I might... Like, I guess what I'm saying is sometimes I don't realize when I'm caught in a little bit of a rut. And it's more... If I start documenting what I'm doing in the streams... If I start to notice any patterns like that, I'm going to be more intentional and thoughtful about what I'm doing each stream. Because I'll be like, oh man, I wrote the same blog post yesterday. Well, tomorrow I really need to break it up. Let me send an email to, or let me send a message to another hermit to see if they want to do a mini game tomorrow night. I'm trying to motivate myself to get out of my comfort zone when I'm... Oh, that's going to be annoying for the edit. I did not... That's fine. Having a few discrepancies, that's part of what makes this fun. But yeah. I've been really enjoying the Satisfactory streams, but I haven't had time to make episodes out of it. I've been recording a lot of it, but I'm just constantly... I'm not sure if I want to do a full YouTube series. I feel like having the streamer's logs will give me something, though, to help me figure out that stuff. Like, what do I want to do with this? Like, maybe I should just do one Satisfactory video a month called October in Satisfactory, And so then if somebody wanted to see how our... Because, like, I didn't realize that Satisfactory was going to take as long as it takes to get very far. But, like, we're getting toward the end game. Like, we're in... We just got aluminum unlocked. And there's 4 of us working on it. But, like, it's the sort of thing, like... Doing... Or maybe I want to do my own Satisfactory series, or I want to wait for a big Satisfactory update. I don't know. I gotta figure that out. But I feel like having written thoughts, instead of just me saying, guys, I gotta figure this out, it's like, oh, well, the fact that I've been writing about it every time I play it for, like, weeks at a time, or months, will mean that, like, when I'll have more kind of, I'll have noodled on it better. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay. I feel like I had something else, another topic that I wanted to bring up at some point. But yeah, anybody have any thoughts on any of that so far? Using the streamer's logs as a way to, like, review UFO 50 games and summarize Satisfactory stuff. What was the other thing? I feel like... Oh, yeah! I remember what I was going to talk about. I wanted a DVD box... I guess it's not a box set if it's like a 2 DVD thing. I want a DVD case with 2 DVDs in it last night. Double BK says, can you believe my friend doesn't like Dr. Seuss? I mean, it probably depends on how old your friend is and if they speak English. Would be my guess. But that is pretty broadly off topic. That's your first time... You've never spoken before in the chat. And that's what you open with. That's odd. Miss Gold Fox says, I think an interesting video on Satisfactory would be an overview of what's been accomplished and explain a little bit more of the endgame objectives. I like watching them, but totally get it. Yeah, that's something I've been trying to figure out. Like, because part of the problem is I'm learning the whole game at once. And so it's been hard for me to, like, be like, hey, in this video, we're going to learn how to do this. Because, like, we jumped in the middle of the group's play. So a bunch of stuff was already unlocked. Yeah, I need to do some sort of, like, catch-up stream. Like, what is Hermit Factory? Like, where is Hermit Factory? October 15th, 2024. Which is not now. What is the date? I don't know. October 20th or something. The month is going so fast. I love the Halloween season, but this year I just feel like I've been playing catch-up. I haven't gotten to do half the fun stuff I want to do. Book Fanatic says, I like the idea of the slogs. I understand why you don't want to keep the VODs, but it's nice to be able to see what I missed when I can't catch morning streams. Yeah, I feel like this might be the solution to a lot of the VOD problems. I really, because I love the idea of there being some sort of lasting artifact of each stream, but I don't think it should be a 4.5 hour recording. And I don't have time to turn a 4.5 hour recording into a 10-minute summary. Like in editing, like video production. So yeah, I think that this is going to be the trick. Welcome back for making your snack, Taco Squirrel to you. We are in the process of dismantling this wall of coal so we can create what will probably end up being a 45-second segment in episode 36. So episode 34 just went out. Episode 35... Wait. This might be in episode 37. I've actually got a lot of footage that's kind of embargoed right now. Because it's like stuff I recorded with other hermits. And we're waiting on like other people's schedules and stuff for certain things to go out. Nick says, I like the Book Fanatic's idea of referring to stream logs as slogs. If you go to my website, no, I've look at the URL for the first streamer's log. I had it as a slog when I wrote it. I decided to call it a slog. The URL has the word slog in it. That was me earlier. I appreciate that it was such a good choice that Book Fanatic is already using it. Like, this is how you can tell that I'm a trendsetter. But yeah, look, joehills.net/slog/2024-1019 bonus. Alpacatastic says, I 100% agree. I would not watch a VOD anyway, but I will absolutely read a quick summary of the streams I miss. Well, and that's one of the other things, too, is I want people to feel like, it seemed like some of the people who were upset about me not having VODs were like, well, this is going to stress me out more when I miss a stream, knowing I can't, watch it again. And I'm like, well, I don't really make the streams for that. I make them to be ephemeral and in the moment. And I like the idea of, if I have these summaries and I publish them, people who miss the streams can catch up and see that they didn't miss much, Nick says, my apologies for defaming your wonderful idea. Though, yes, agreed, slogs would help avoid the slog of trying to catch up on every stream. I will say, I'm probably not going to have the slog go up tonight for this stream, because this one actually will have a VOD out, and so I don't feel as urgent. Okay, let's go ahead and lay our heads down and dream. We're almost to the end of this. Wow. Okay, we are going to get done before midnight, I think. Oh, come on. Lay your head down and dream. Okay. So one thing I need to do as well is I need to modify the replay mod config file, I think, to allow it to do longer exports, because this export is going to be long. Normally, we want the exports to be at like 5x or 8x or 20x time, but part of what's going to make this charming is this is actually going to be 81 simultaneous column builds and 81 simultaneous column destructions. And they're going to be slightly offset so that occlusion isn't a problem. But the idea of them is to have this actually be in Minecraft real time, which means the export needs to be in real time. So that's its own whole thing. Almost to the top. Bop, 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 bop. What a bop. Yeah. Up we go. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I think this is going to look good at the end of the day. Raystar says, heart the dedication to the bit. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, if I'm gonna break this much coal, I want to do it in a way that's visually interesting and spectacular. You know? Taco Squirrel says, I didn't finish making my snack before Joe finished reading Moby Dick. Sorry, Taco Squirrel. Yeah, I've read 5 chapters. I kind of hit my limits. Okay. Just as a reminder, if you think my face needs to be larger and more slightly transparent, we are currently $15 away, by my count, from the next face camera expansion milestone. The abacus is barely showing up now. It's fine. Tapioca makes 40 minutes to make. You know, Manu from Mystery Pinball Theater makes his own tapioca, I think. Or they do, like, yeah, they make their own, like, tapioca pearls for, like, boba. It's a fun family thing for him and his kids to do. Okay. Up we go. Up we go. Bum 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 bum. The climbing the ladder. He's climbing the ladder. Ba ba da ba. Ba ba da ba. The climbing the ladder is what really gets me. Whoops. Well, that's gonna be a weird one. I made tapioca pudding though, and added pumpkin spice to it to make it fall like. Oh, cool. Hey, Sveta, you haven't missed. I mean, after this, we still have to go into replay mod and start the render, because this is going to be a render that's going to, like, take a long time. Most replay mod renders I do that are going to be hours long of footage would end up being speed condensed heavily. This one, we're going to be rendering in real time so that I can have the pillars get broken in real time. And, yeah, it's going to be a whole thing. Yeah. So I did not correctly anticipate how long this would take. And then I started a little bit later than I expected because I moved the, what do you call it? The beacon. La da da da. Ba 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 ba. He's climbing the ladder. Oh gosh, I feel like I'm so nearly done with this. Like, I'm very excited. I'm really glad I did this in a format that will be completely incompatible with vertical videos. Even if I wanted to, I did this in such a broad and wide thing that it has to be widescreen. Okay, up we go. We're making it happen. Just as a reminder, if you're enjoying this stream, we are 15 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. We have run 75 minutes over. So anything that you'll want to throw my way would be deeply appreciated. Okay. Okay, here's where we're going down here. Audrey Holt, welcome. Audrey Holt says, wow, this is the latest I've ever tuned in. Yeah, so we're in the middle of capturing a time lapse for replay mod that is going to run. I've had this idea that I've been workshopping for years for large scale time lapse of harvesting a ton of materials like this. And every time I tried to do it, I screwed it up in a new and different way. And so last time I screwed it up, I was like, okay, I think I've got this. I think I've figured out how to do this perfectly. Next time I do this, I'm going to nail it. And I think we're nailing it. Like, I can't tell until I actually get into editing, but I think we're nailing this. I think this is going to look really cool in the videos, and I'm really excited to get this neat editing idea I had actually made. I think it's important to show, you know, that the folks on HermitCraft, we're not just like, oh, we're not just taking clips from our recordings when we're editing. We're creating something narrative and visually interesting in you know, different ways. Ken Dreadful says, stoked to see the time lapse without the Joey Stark helmet fam superimposed on top. I bet, yeah. Hey, we got a tip rolling in from Catherine, who says, good luck with the coal time lapse. I was thinking, like, oh, is that a typo for cool? No, I guess it is a coal time lapse. Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. Here we go. Expand. Jost. Do. And we are going to lower the Joe Pasty now to 42%. Appreciate it, Catherine. We are now 20 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. Dazadair, please don't spam emotes. I'm in the middle of recording a time lapse that requires precise replication of my movements. I mean, I can be a little imprecise. Like, technically I should be more centered here, but it's fine. I can wobble a little bit, but probably shouldn't wobble that much. But yeah, I have been at this now for 3 hours, and what I need to do is I need to climb that ladder, or the scaffold, and then remove a column of coal in such a way that I can take all 81 columns of coal and kind of splice in a wave. If I overlay all 81 clips and slightly offset them, so that as soon as I start digging on one, like, and I drop like 2 blocks, I'm then removing the next one. Then I can basically show like 81 versions of me removing this entire thing in like a wave. I think it'll look really cool. I have been working on this concept for a while, and I'm really excited about it. But yeah, it requires this not being done poorly. So if I have to time people out in chat and it messes with my timing on this, I'm going to be really annoyed. And I'm probably not going to time people out. I'm probably going to ban them at this point, because I have been going at this for 3 hours to create what will ultimately be a 20-second segment of a video that people might not look up in time for. But I feel like that's part of art sometimes, is you just make the stuff that you think you want to make, and you hope it's appreciated by somebody. Okay. So basically, once I hop on the ladder until I go back behind the coal wall. Who's on the server today? It is just me right now. Cub, I saw Cub, Joel, Grian, and Doc about 12 hours ago. And Scar was on tonight. I'm really hoping this turns out okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into replay mod. I'm going to set up a camera a long distance away with FOV 30 to like intensely zoom in on this and frame this, and I think it should work well. But we're getting to a weird point where there's not going to be enough space for me to really hide. I just gotta full send this from here on out. Okay. Bum, 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 bum. Let's gotta slightly tweak the timing. I want a few imperfections in there that's gonna make it feel more real, because this is something I'm doing by hand, you know. I'm not just like having a computer generate me following a track. Like, I'm hand puppeting this. So a few imperfections are okay, but they need to be the exception, not the rule. KGHM says, who's considered the biggest grinder among the hermits, if anyone is? Well, I've actually built the law firm from the TV show The Grinder, Sanderson and Yao. So, I mean, I feel like there is a strong claim to be made. I mean, I've also this season, I've mined over 2 million stone. I think I was at 2.37 million earlier today. But yeah, I'm definitely the only one who has built the law firm from the TV show The Grinder. So, server will restart in 5 minutes. No, you're kidding me. We need to get this all in one file for replay mod editing purposes. Oh my gosh. I didn't even know. I said if we're not done with this by midnight, I might just take a break or call it anyway. I didn't know that the server was going to restart at midnight. I will be so mad. I will be so mad if we're not done with this by midnight. Oh my gosh. This is the most dramatic server in Minecraft, apparently. KGHM in the YouTube chat says, yeah, the stone mining project had me leaning that way. Server forcing you to drop glass slippers like crazy. I know. Sean Bear says, you could do it, Joe. Sveta says, wait, suddenly there's a challenge for this? I mean, this was already challenging. It's really hard to precisely replicate. Like, the thing is, it doesn't have to be perfectly precise, but it has to be close. I'm trying to face roughly the same way every time. I'm trying to stand roughly the same distance on the block every time. It's not perfect. I'm trying to do a turn and immediate dig every time. Like, this is actually something that has... It has difficulty to it. I didn't expect the urgency was, I feel like I was going to say letting my fiance down. I'm married now. I'm super excited about that, but I'm not used to it. I feel like I'm letting my spouse down if I'm running late after the stream and normally would hang out together. I am so close. 3 minutes. I feel like I've done 2 columns since the 5-minute thing came up. Dang it, the Twitch chat is not auto-scrolling, and I can't take the time to do it. Audrey Holt says, good luck, keep going. Audrey Holt says, I was going to suggest 2 columns at a time, but you're doing the time-lapse. Yeah, that's the thing, is the whole point of the time-lapse is to have all the columns. It's not going to ruin it if I have to get the last 2, but it is really frustrating that I was this close to getting it done. Okay, so... Can I open up Discord on my phone to figure out what somebody said there? I'm in the wrong channel. Okay, we are about to do our pivot and run. And back up. Okay, so now I'm going to move the phone to this hand. In the live event chat, Badger says, I'm good, having a nice time right now. Okay, good. Well... I know, but I want to see what happens next in Barry, which I know I've already seen it. What happens to replay mod if you get kicked off at restart? Well, it breaks it into 2 separate files, and then I can't just do one big export. Like, and then I have to splice the files together. It's doable. I definitely have the ability to do it, but it's not streamlined. Like, the most streamlined process is to get one shot of you just doing the whole thing. Next time, Bubble Vader. I was regretting not building a Bubble Vader about halfway through this. But yeah, I think next time we do this, there will 100% be a Bubble Vader. Every time I've done this, I'm like, I feel like I'm getting better at it. I'm learning. 1 minute, yeah. Missed it by that much. If I had known that the server was gonna restart, I would have rushed this so much more. Oh gosh, and it's gonna be nighttime. Oh, what I don't want is I don't want the server to restart in the middle of a column. That will be a problem. I need to duck behind this column and disconnect. Yeah, okay. As soon as we're done with this column, we're going to disconnect. Because if it breaks, if the server shuts off while I'm in the middle of a column, that will completely kill the recording. I mean, it won't kill it, but it will ruin what we're doing here. So. Ah! I am not used to there being a lot of candles there. Oh, gosh. It's fine. Okay. Well, we tried. We tried, and we managed to do damage control, other than the candles, which is damage out of control. But yeah, next time, Bubble Vader. Badger raises eyebrow. I'm fine. I'm not gonna answer about the candles. Candles, I don't know. I'm gonna have to check. Pepper Basenji says, this reminds me of when season 9 ended, you were grinding to the last second. Yeah, I know, but like, oh, man, I could have just been a little bit more. It's fine. It's fine. Bubble Vader next time. Gritmonger's right. Like, honestly, it's gonna be extra work for me to splice these two replay files together, but it's doable. Okay, so one thing I need to do is I need to go into... Where is this here? We're going to go into our config folder. We're going to go to the replay mod settings. And we're going to go to advanced. Where's the thing where it says how long? Timeline length, 1800. We're going to change that to 7200. And we're going to save this, and we'll find out if that needs to be reloaded entirely or if we can just dump that. Okay, cool. Okay. So that's 2 hours on the timeline here, and this is 16 minutes to 210. So 40 from 210 is more than 2 hours. Okay, so what's 7,200 times 2? 14. I'm going to exit the replay. It's 14,400. Okay. So we're going to exit the replay and reload it, and then... Hey, welcome, Zoekins. Late Night Crew is still here, yep. Audrey Holt says, I had a huge project keeping me busy, but I just finished, so I'm glad the stream is still up. I'd have nothing to do otherwise. Yeah. Hey, we got a tip rolling in from Kendra for 5, who says, funds to break the last 2 columns. Well, we're going to give the server a chance to restart and do its nightly backup. But I wanted to show you guys what we're working toward here. And also, I need to get this replay mod set up so we can actually, do it. So when I say, like, oh, yeah, I play UFO 50 while waiting on replay mod, opening and closing a file in replay mod can take several minutes, as you can see. And so, like, oh, I could play a little turn-based game, play a few turns, wait. Okay, so if we go back in here now, we should have the whole thing like that. Okay, so now if we zoom out, we can go... Oh, it's still maxing out at 2 hours. Ugh. Okay, well, this was going to have to be broken into segments anyway, it looks like. So, 42... So let's jump to the 40-minute mark here. So 40 plus 120 is 180. So that's not going to get us all the way through this file. No, it's 160. Yeah, that's definitely not going to get us all the way. So this is the point where I broke that and then started over. Okay. So here's what we're going to do here. We are going to zoom way the heck out. Options, FOV 30. Zoom, 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 zoom. Okay. And we are going to do a rough camera placement here, as well as a rough timeline placement here. We're going to tweak the timeline placement to just be 40 minutes exactly. Save. And then at the 120-minute mark, we're going to set that to be 160 minutes exactly. Now, this is not aligned properly. This is just a very rough placement. This might not be where we need to be. So we're going to jump forward here. Okay. So now we need to look at how tall that is. And then we need to come out to accommodate it. Okay. So we're going to set that there. You know what? You're not going to be able to see me running across the top of that there. Unless I have a little bit more height. Okay. So this is why I said, like, it doesn't have to be 100% precise, because we're far enough out on this. Okay. So, anyway. Did I put that 5 on the abacus? Yes, I did. Did I remember to post the tipping link again? No. If you're enjoying this stream, just as a reminder, this is a viewer-supported stream. We have gone late. Even if you wanted to just throw $2 to $5 in, every little bit helps. Pepper Basenji says, thank you. Good night, all. Have a good night tonight. Appreciate it. Okay. So we're going to go in here to my HC9 replay mod coordinates, and this is going to be probably episode 37 overworld name tag. And we're going to try and set... Okay, so the actual dead center on this XY is 368.5. So we're going to want it to be centered 368.5. Although, actually, because of the scaffold, that's not going to be entirely right, but whatever. Okay, so 114 for the Y. Z position. Let's put in 441. Yeah. Save. Let's see if that's still okay. Yep, that's still okay. Camera yaw. Okay, 114, 441. I like the symmetry there. Camera yaw. Let's say 0. 0.5 is a weird amount. Like, it almost seems better to have no yaw at that point. Okay. Camera pitch, 5.5. Let's try that. How does that feel? Feels good. Okay. So, yaw 0, 5.5 on the pitch. Okay. So, if... Oh, boy. Oh, no. Actually, I don't want to delete that. I want to make sure we're in the right place here. Yep, that looks right. Wait. 120. Time index is for 160. Wouldn't that be here? Something's wrong with this. Oh, all the ender pearls are messing up the render. But, okay. Oh, yeah, so we need to have night vision on. We need to have name tags off. And we need to have... Okay, so let's set up this render. HC10 dash 037 dash replay slash r dash RT first col A1. Okay. Save. Render name tags off. Chroma keying. Yes. And before we do that, let's double check both of these coordinates here. It does make me uncomfortable that this is rendering as off the edge there. Like, if I set that to 120, or It's still rendering us off the edge. Okay. Maybe. Okay, instead of doing this 160, 159 and 119 as the timeline position. That's weird. 160. I normally don't do exports this long, but I think it should work. So let's go ahead and set this up. Okay, so I haven't built the whole thing yet, so I'm still at that point doing the... Okay, well that fixed that line at least. That's something. Okay. I might be too far out for this to work well, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Have a good night, Audrey Holt. Have a good night, Kendra. Okay. Okay. So we're going to hit the render on this. And that's that. That is... I'll do the other segment tomorrow. Twitch.tv/directory/falling. Who is still awake is the question. Once again, I'm not going to immediately post the stream log for tonight because the VOD is going to stay up, which I actually need to go rename this file or add it to the playlist or whatever. Bum 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 bum. I've had a lot of caffeine. I'm kind of like jittering at this point. It's like I was so excited about this render. I want to see this. I want to edit it. I'm like, I think it's good to push yourself creatively. But like, I'm like, I want to do it now, but I gotta wait for this overnight probably to, and then I gotta get the first part exported tonight. Overnight, and then I gotta get the second segment and then the third segment. So it looks like there's no way to do more than a 2-hour export and replay mod anyway, which is fine. It's fine. Okay, playlist, Moby Dick, weekly save. Okay, so let us go look at Twitch real quick. I don't want recommended channels. I want to see the channels I follow. Twitch, how you gotta do me that? Why? Okay. It looks like the Fox Cities Pinball is streaming from Pinball Expo in Chicago again. Oh, glad that didn't have copyright music in it, because that would blow up the VOD. So we're gonna raid Fox Cities Pinball. When you get over there, our raid message is howdy y'all. Joe Hill's raid here. Anyway, thank y'all so much for hanging out tonight. Until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring. Stop streaming, stop in the stream.